talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Score a winning hat-trick of performance, payload and price. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 10:01, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. Jack Wilshere is the new Luton manager and Chris Powell will be his number 2 after back-to-back relegations. Alan Pardew says a young, progressive Wilshere could be the man to turn things round at Luton.
He's coming into a scenario where a team has taken a huge hit, 2 huge hits, and mentally the whole place needs a lift.
There's more on this at talksport.com. Now, Andy Robertson's told us Scotland fans were right to boo the team off at Hampden despite that 2-1 win. Ali McCoy suggests Steve Clarke's team made Belarus look good.
But we won the game, and that's all that mattered, because I keep saying it, I'd far rather play poorly and win the game and play brilliantly and lose it.
Scotland still have World Cup qualification in their own hands. Meanwhile, Craig Bellamy says it's Wales' job to match the intensity of that red wall.
I have to be honest, even in my time here, the connection the players and the fans have, it's quite unique, and it's really special.
Wales host Belgium tonight in Cardiff. That will be rocking. Ashes now, and Pat Cummins admits he's unlikely to be fit for the first test next month. The Aussie captain is struggling with a back problem. And Andrew Flintoff's told talkSPORT he regrets taking the England captain's seat in 2006, but felt he was expected to. Right now, Flintoff's 100% focused on coaching England's young Lions.
I'm loving doing that, and I don't see that as a stepping stone or leading to anywhere else. I feel at the minute that is
all you want to do.
That's what I want to do, and I feel that I can offer something.
You can hear Flintoff's full interview with Steve Harmison on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel.
talkSPORT News.
All remaining living Israeli hostages have been released by Hamas, and more than 1 million legal claims against some of the world's leading car makers are going to be tried in court. There's more from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Rain or shine, our mobile tyre fitting service comes to you, so you can stay on the sofa this winter. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Largely cloudy and dry for most of us, turning increasingly sunny across Scotland. A few drizzly showers possible on some coasts and breezy down south.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown, and we are live on talkSPORT. So, as Scotland move into pole position for World Cup qualification, does it really matter if they are a tough watch? Meantime, as Steven Gerrard pulls out of the running, where on earth do the Rangers ownership turn to next? Also today, is Jack Wilshere the answer for Luton now he's got the job? How much resilience should we be asking of referees? If you're Glasner, why are you committing yourself to Palace? Are too many people catastrophizing about the regulator? Plus, we are joined right here in studio this very morning by England football icon Paul Gascoigne. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown, and we are live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
And I look forward to all of that. Martin Keown, welcome back. How have you been?
Very well, very well. Due to popular demand, I'm back.
Yes.
Been a few weeks away. It's been nice break. Great to be back, though, for more stories and more trivia on football. Watched your lot last night, Jim.
Yeah.
A really good look, and Belarus looked like they were going to score every time they attacked, and ultimately they did. But great result for Scotland.
A great result for Scotland. So, Simon, how do you feel about it? We're on the brink. A bit to go yet, though. A bit to go yet.
How do I feel about what? Scotland?
Absolutely.
sort of deep-seated disinterest. That would be the expression I'd reach for.
Now, you getting yourself sorted, incidentally. I notice you're looking for a plug point.
I'm not.
I notice you're looking a wee bit out of sorts here.
One of the byproducts.
It's only Monday. One
of the byproducts of coming in the studio at 10 o'clock is that you get the crap chair. I've got the crap chair.
Martin, I noticed you having a quick chat with Mr. Gascoigne in the green room next door. He is eagerly looking forward to joining us in here. He's got a book out. There is 8, and it's not significantly only because of the number 8 that he wore on his back. There's more to that, and we'll get to that. But you and Gazza go back a long way.
Certainly do. Gazza, one of the all-time greats. You know, he's one of those, I suppose, when you look at George Best and all the problems he had trying to get on the pitch. I think we're kind of lucky to get what we got from Gazza with the way that he is, his addictive personality. I'd be interested to ask him that. A massive talent, played with him on the 21s to start with. We kind of missed each other a little bit. Graham Taylor didn't have him, did he? Because he had all those injuries that Gazza was besieged by injuries. And then, of course, 90 and 96 he was quite magnificent, one of the best players on the planet.
Yeah. Simon, someone you know, and you've interviewed him in the past, Jack Wilshere, in at Luton Town.
Yeah, good luck to Jack. I was very suitably impressed with Jack, more impressed than I anticipated I would be when I was speaking to him. There's a lot more to Jack Wilshere than people might have seen and might have think they know. He's quite a thinker of the game.
He's impressive, isn't he?
Much more impressive, and I'm not surprised that he's got himself an opportunity, and I'm pleased for him.
Yeah.
It's a good gig at Luton. Obviously, they've gone up to the Premier League, come back down again, and had various managers in there, but I think there's a chance Jack might do well.
You think so? Is it risky, though? Having said that...
Every appointment's a risk.
Yeah.
And specifically when you've got a manager that's got no experience, but he's been coaching well, and they're redeveloping and they're rebuilding. They're a different sort of football club, Luton. They've got their principles about who they won't take as advertisers and what they will and won't do. They're going through a rebuild again. Sadly, they've dropped back through the divisions again. But I think it's a great opportunity for Jack. And given the time that I spent with him, and I've spoken to him subsequent, I think he's focused on being successful as a manager for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I think he'll have all the disciplines and none of the big-time player stuff. He's not. I don't think he'll be carrying the Jack Wilshere player mentality or the attitude that he was once a good player. I think he'll go into management in the right way with all the right disciplines. And
I think he's committed.
Yeah, I'm
totally committed to this job. Luton, he has a Luton connection. I think he's a modern-day coach.
The Arsenal days, wasn't
That's correct.
Yeah.
Talk when he was at Norwich of him living in a sort of mobile home so that he could be on the training ground every day, away from his family. Jim, he's the real deal, and I expect to see that at Luton.
Okay, we have a lot to look forward to this morning. Paul Gascoigne is going to be in the studio about 10:30, Luke, right? In a room near to us, chatting to McCoyson and having a cup of coffee, and looking forward to joining us. Martin, you mentioned Scotland last night. They're in a very good position because they beat the Greeks the other night at Hampden, and then last night they beat Belarus, but boy, it was a struggle. And Steve Clarke dwelled on that post-match.
Really disappointed, really disappointed. Possibly as disappointed as I've been over the whole 72 games. We just didn't turn up. We've got 6 points for the double header, so we're really pleased about that. I think if everybody in this room that's got a Scottish connection would have been happy to have the 6 points. But the performance tonight was way below par.
Can you put your finger on what went wrong tonight, what it was?
No, head scratcher. But I'll go away, I'll have a look, we'll analyse it, and we'll look at what we have to do better and how we have to be more cohesive as a team without the ball, and how we have to be better as a team when we have possession.
You see, I like that, Simon.
Yeah.
Now, you and I joke a lot about my obvious Scottish allegiance and your criticism of them. Your tongue-in-cheek disinterest, although it's not really tongue-in-cheek, it's for real. But here's the thing. Steve Clarke was right there at the end of it. They're in a very good position now, Simon.
What's that?
Now, that's a good thing. Fact number one, they're in a good position. It's not done yet. But I like the way he's saying, good God, what are we about here? We need to get a grip of this. So we're going to look at it, and we'll come back to you when we've worked out what the heck went on last night. And I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best way to be. We often get confronted with managers that try to convince us that what we've seen isn't what we've seen. It's like a sleight of hand. What's upside down? It's like through the looking glass with some of these managers. You get told something that you haven't seen, and you've got to get on with what they think you can listen to. Whereas he's just confronted it with sort of monosyllabic shutting down of a journalist, which is, yes, a head scratcher, Paul. You're not good enough. and we'll work it backwards. But we've got 6 points, and that was the end of the day. And at the end of the day, that's what our job was. In fairness, with respect to Scotland, they should, in principle, get 6 points. They have beaten the Greeks before and lost to the Greeks. So they know that they can beat this side. They did their job in the Greek game and they laboured past Belarus. But all you can ask for a team, none of these results will matter if Scotland qualify. Everyone will forget people booing at half-time because the game against Belarus wasn't quite what they expected. The job was done. And I think Steve Clarke often catches some shrapnel that he perhaps shouldn't. So I thought he caught some shrapnel after the Euros where they lost a couple of games and boom, they were immediately onto him. And then he got some decent results, and then it almost feels like Steve Clarke is always not too far away from some significant criticism. And I often feel that despite the fact he's quite dour and he isn't the most charismatic of fellows, that shouldn't be the credentials. Just get a buy-in.
Yeah.
The Scotland team is not
pragmatic,
doing pretty well.
Well, he's pragmatic. Basically, the story is this. Scotland and Denmark are now both joint top on 10 points. Scotland will finish either first or second, which would earn a March playoff. It's about March time they have a playoff there. And you have to think, maybe it will go in that direction, but we'll see. So they've got 1 foot in the finals. Maybe, Martin. But I like that because he's been in charge. He's the longest-serving manager, reaching 72 games. But it's saying in all of that time, this was the head-scratcher, and I don't know why.
Look, what else is he to say, Jim, really? Because if you hadn't have watched the game, you'd have looked at it and said, Scotland, aren't they half doing really well? Euros last 2, they've qualified. Not qualified for a World Cup since 98. That's a hell of a long time. That pressure seemed to weigh heavily on them. It's interesting how the contrast with England, where you could say we don't have great fans, but we have a really good team. They don't have their fans last night were hammering the players. It must be toxic to play there. It must be very, very difficult. You can't even say that because you want that energy behind you, and it wasn't there last night from the Scottish supporters. I think that makes it doubly difficult. I know you've got to give them something to cheer about. I think that radically needs to look. I think Tierney should be starting. He came off the bench and the right back seemed to be struggling. They don't have a secure base in midfield. They were running for every time Belarus attacked.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to score.
Oh,
that cannot happen.
Heart and mouth.
When you look at their seeding in European football, in world football, is very, very low. So they kind of like, in trying to win this game, they very nearly lost it. And there were so many significant moments, disallowed goals. There was a penalty that they maybe should have had. So it was controversial to the extreme. And I think the Scottish are delighted, Jim. You must have been hiding behind the sofa. You know, if I put my Scottish hat on, it was just, it was a real struggle. So no, well done to Scotland. You live to fight another day, but you need to get your act together in the next one.
But and that is a fact, isn't it, though, Martin? Because you can't help but think, say they get there next summer, and ideally hope they will. I don't want it to end up like it did in the Euros over in Germany.
You don't need to worry about that. Securing that qualification is all important, isn't it? The quality of the Scottish player. Look at McTominay, what he's doing now on the European stage. You know, he's flying a flag for you, isn't he? So you're growing as individuals. You're trying to get 11 very good players together. It's not like the 80s, Jim. You know, like there was so many Scottish players, wasn't there, to choose from. So it's on track. I think you have a very good manager, very solid. He's never too high or too low. He's somewhere in between, and he'll look and analyse. I'm a bit concerned he doesn't have the answers for me now because he maybe should do. Maybe he doesn't want to say the truth, which is that they weren't good enough. So it's easier to say, look, let's re-establish what we need to do for the next one. But I expect them to qualify now. It's between them and Denmark, but they have to beat Greece in the next one.
I haven't heard Hampden like that last night.
No.
And I was surprised, but it was justified. And I think Steve Clarke is saying this morning, yeah, it's justified.
Jim, I went there to play for England, and when I looked into the crowd when they sang Flower of Scotland, and you saw the whites of the eyes, and it was like, okay, let's get it on. But it's quite a fearsome sight. You've got to turn that energy towards the players. They're working just against them just at the moment.
Yeah, it was a tough watch last night at Hampden. Of that, there is no doubt. Scotland won it only just. But does it matter? Does it matter? I heard in commentary last night the suggestion that, the result is all important. Yes, it is. But surely you're a bit jittery about how Scotland may or may not perform, as in when they get to the USA next summer. You might want to give me a call on that. 03717 223344 810 89. Paul Gascoigne, just a couple of rooms from this studio, played for and starred for Rangers. But what is going on at that football club at the moment, we'll look at that very shortly. It's Monday morning, Monday, October the 13th. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Martin Keown, and we are live in talkSPORT, courtesy of Selco. It's where the trade goes. Good morning, everybody. Monday morning. Monday, October the 13th. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown, and we're live in talkSPORT with Selco. It's where the trade goes. If you're watching this morning, then you're going to have a feast of fun from 10:30 onwards. Paul Gascoigne is going to be right here in this studio talking about his new book, 8, that and amongst many other things. Gazza's got some time to spend with us, and we'll look forward to doing just that. So if you're watching, you can watch on Samsung, LG, Fire TV, Apple TV, even Prime Video. You can watch the show as well as listen to it. And many of you are doing just that. Many of you who came up to me down at Tower Bridge over the weekend to say how much you enjoy the show. And of course, Mr. Jordan in particular. And we are delighted about that. Steven Gerrard will not be renewing his acquaintance with Rangers in Glasgow because he's pulled out the running to be the next Rangers manager. Of course, this time last week, it was all about Russell Martin and being virtually hunted out of the club by a section of the support. Russell Martin has gone, but who's in next? Well, it's not going to be Steven Gerrard. That's in spite of the fact that Gerrard was in conversation very recently with Rio Ferdinand talking about the prospect of returning to management here.
I've loved it so far. I'd love another go at some point. I want to change a few things and improve a few things and come back fresh with a few different people around myself. I'd love another couple of challenges doing this. And that's what I'm working on in the background at the moment. A few different ideas, a few different people around me. I know where I'm strong, and I know there's areas where I need good support and I need special skill sets to make me better and stronger in terms of my staff and my group. I felt like I had that to a T at Rangers. A lot of coach changes at Aston Villa and over in Saudi that I don't think helped me from a personal point of view. There's a part of me that still feels that there's a bit of unfinished business in terms of wanting to go in and face another couple of exciting challenges, but I want a certain type of challenge. If in an ideal world they come available, I'll jump at them. If they don't, I won't go back in. I want to be at a team that's going to compete to win because I think that suits me better.
So what we know is Gerrard, it was widely reported, met with Rangers chairman Andrew Kavanagh and vice chairman Parag Marath and the 49ers Enterprises technical director Greta Steinson, including a face-to-face meeting in London last Thursday. It's also been reported Gerrard's decided that the timing wasn't right for him to return and he no longer wishes to be considered. So he's out of the picture. Nonetheless, Simon, is it a slightly embarrassing look for the Rangers ownership that he comes and goes?
Well, I mean, given the fact that if the main guys are in the room and they couldn't sell it, then yes, of course it looks like it's an embarrassing situation. The fact that it finds its way in the public domain is always a curiosity to me because they managed to appoint Thomas Tuchel as England manager without anyone knowing about it. So they can make decisions in life, and you can suppress information if you choose to. If you've got everybody on board, making sure that because there was no need for this to find its way in the public domain, and in fact it did find its way in the public domain. Now looks like a situation where the Rangers board and their primary components of it can't even sell it. Who knows why Gerrard didn't walk back in? Whether there is a complication around tax affairs because there's a certain tax structuring in the Middle East that enables you to be tax-free if you're out of income in the UK for 3 years. Who knows whether that was baked into the thinking and Gerrard wanted him to pick up some of the slack on that. Who knows? I mean, I'm not, as you know, I'm not particularly impressed with the sporting director that's there and whether that was a component part.
Kevin Thelwell.
Well, what is interesting...
Well, it's reported, Simon, you're right. In some quarters, it's been suggested that Gerrard might have had reservations about working as a head coach in a structure under the sporting director, Kevin Thelwell.
And that may well be true. It may well also be true that Gerrard has had a dance in Scotland and doesn't feel that it's another dance he wants to have. Because one of the things he said in the Rio Ferdinand interview, which you've got to take in isolation and maybe not overlay it to the Rangers situation, but for the purpose of conversation there's to that, is that he wanted a football club that could achieve things. He knows going into Rangers he's got to win. And maybe he thinks that Rangers aren't in the condition that they were 2 or 3 years ago to give him an opportunity to be given some fair dispensation to be able to be successful, whereas walking through the door now he'll be perceived as a saviour, and the condition of Rangers may be far away from what he anticipates is an opportunity for him to go back in, or he may think he's already done Rangers and going back to Rangers proves nothing to anybody. He may be thinking along those lines, and a different opportunity in English football, whether it be in the Championship, because I don't think he's a Premier League manager, might be the way he's gone. But all of those things, lead you to a situation where if you're in the room, and putting aside the fact that you haven't done the commercials, right? Because the commercials can be done once you've established the principle of what everyone wants. If everyone likes one another and they want to have a dance, then you can put the commercials around it, right? So you don't need to have the commercials done to sit in a room to get people's position as to whether I want to work for Rangers and whether we want you. The fact that you go into a room with the 2 top guys, Put Patrick Stewart in there and all this nonsense about his chief executive of Man United. No, he wasn't. He was interim. He was in a back room for 20 years or however long he was there. Put Kevin Thurwell in a room. Unimpressive in my view. But you put the main guys in there, and if they ain't impressive and they can't sell it to a potential manager, I would be slightly concerned if I was Rangers fans, without wanting to make a 4-act play out of it. Those guys sat in a room with a view to say, we're going to get closer now. We're going to get closer now, and we're going to make sure that everyone knows we're getting closer, because we made sure everyone knew that the bleeding thing was happening in the first place, and then we don't sell it. That should be slightly...
It's quite alarming, isn't it? From a Rangers point of view, it's embarrassing and alarming, one would say, Martin.
Yeah, but I'm not surprised. And I must say, we talk about being impressive. I was really impressed with Steven Gerrard and the way that he's matured as a young man. Very clear thinking. I thought it was an excellent interview. He's showing ambition. I think in the cold light of day, Jim, he realises that it wasn't for him to go back to Rangers.
Right.
It's not the.
So we can forget him at the moment.
I think he's out of it, but I do feel he'll be coming back, and he seems like he's really well equipped. He knows
well, now it appears one of the favourites, Martin, is former Sheffield Wednesday manager Danny Roll. But is Championship the right place to look for the next manager of Rangers?
Well, maybe it is, Jim. I mean, somebody who's out of a job. The manager at Hearts has talked very well. The way they are in the table now, do they need somebody who understands the league a bit better, coming in to the opposition, the opponents, and the group of players that are there? Will it just automatically pick up? Will Russell Martin? I mean, he was challenging players right from the beginning, falling out with all the players.
What's the level of the Scottish Premier League? Because Jim's making a case about, can you come from the Championship managing the Scottish Premier League? I would immediately go, well, it's not a very good league anyway, and the Championship's probably a better league anyway.
Their fan base and the way they are.
Put aside their fan base.
That's a Premier League club. But the way they're playing on the football pitch, no, it's more Championship.
But picking up not just the team, but the opposition they're playing against, because the opposition in the league, besides Celtic and potentially Hearts at this moment in time, look at that league and say, why would a manager that manages in the Championship at a high level not be able to manage at Rangers if he's managing a decent sized club?
He should be able to.
Shouldn't he?
The way it works, Jim, in Scotland, having had experience watching my son play there, when Partick Thistle, for instance, they hand over. Like 90% of the ground goes to Rangers or to Celtic. They're so extreme, so massive. Yeah. They're the two teams. And to not be in the running for Rangers, it is a little bit shameful that they are falling so much. And Russell Martin doesn't really have an excuse, really, because of the financial power that they have in Scotland. Yeah. He's got it all wrong.
Well, the fellow who's about to join us in studio, Paul Gascoigne, in his time there, had every Rangers fan, man, woman, child, on their feet every time he played for the football club.
They were the good old days, weren't they?
Gaza, and that was the time, and we're going to get into that. Walter Smith took him there, of course. But now, though, I mean, Martin, Simon, where did they go? They played Dundee United on Saturday. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. They've no one in place. There's talk of Slaven Bilic. There's even talk of Michael Carrick. Where did they go?
But who are they sitting? Who's going to take the team on Sunday? I mean, the game will take care of itself to some extent, because they'll be, if the people didn't connect with Russell Martin, the fact that Russell Martin's gone might well liberate the players for 5 minutes, and they might well turn up for 5 minutes in a couple of games and then need some direction there on afterwards. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. The bigger decision is, who do you get in and how can they take them forward? Because there shouldn't be this much wrong with Rangers. There shouldn't be this much of a challenge in terms of what they're getting from their players. Whether the players who bought by Russell Martin weren't as good as people want them to be, they'll be better than most of the players that are playing for the other Scottish Premier League sides. So I expect to see, and would be surprised if I didn't see it, whoever comes in, to see an uptick in Rangers, because the toxicity surrounding Russell Martin depends if you go and get another manager that the Rangers fan base immediately take against from the get-go. Because they took against Russell Martin from the get-go. The guy didn't get a foot in the door before they decided they didn't want him.
Played 7-1-1.
Doesn't explain his result.
It's an opportunity for those detractors in the dressing room, isn't it, to pull together if he was that bad.
And they probably will, won't they?
Do either of these two excite you, Martin? Bilic or Carrick?
Bilic is an interesting manager. I think we shouldn't underestimate what he's done in international football, what he's done in West Ham. That might not be a bad fit for Rangers. But we'll have to see, Jim. They've got to make these decisions. But Gerrard was a safe pair of hands, and it would have generated an interest for the fans again. They love him. He's a hero. I'm afraid that boat has sailed.
OK, we're keeping across the Rangers situation. Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs were right on it over the weekend when Gerrard suddenly became no longer a candidate to take over. The boys are working behind the scenes this morning. Anything we hear, we'll bring it to you first and fastest live on talkSPORT. Paul Gascoigne is on the way.
Jack Wilshere's got his first senior job in management as he joins Luton Town. The Hatters parted with Matt Bloomfield and sit 11th in League One with just one win from their last 5 league games. talkSPORT's Alan Pardew says Luton need to make the playoffs at least.
And maybe a young coach with progressive ideas and the enthusiasm to lift everybody will be much needed. I hope he gets some guidance. He needs some guidance.
Wilshere was interim boss at Norwich at the end of last season. Now, were Scotland fans right to boo off a winning team? Andy Robertson says yes.
I've got no problems at all, and I think it also was a part of nerves from the fans as well, and rightly so. You know, the last 5 minutes it's 2-1, they throw their big centre-backs up, which we should have never have been in that position, so no, completely understand it.
Scotland were unconvincing in their 2-1 win over Belarus, but still have World Cup qualification in their own hands. Craig Bellamy believes a special moment is coming for Wales ahead of their crunch qualifier at home to Belgium tonight. Meanwhile, Julian Nagelsmann said sorry for calling Michael O'Neill's long ball approach not particularly easy on the eyes. Northern Ireland host Germany tonight. The winner goes top of the group. And Australia captain Pat Cummins admits he probably won't be fit for that first Ashes test. He's struggling with a back problem.
We get into bowling prep, I think, next week, so probably a couple of weeks away before actually putting on the spikes and bowling out on turf. But yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks. Kind of each session feels better and better.
Monday morning, Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown. We are live in talkSPORT. We're live on your TV as well. And this morning we are joined in studio by an iconic name in English football.
Now Gascoigne. Right. Gascoigne again. Lovely move and terrific goal. Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Brilliant! That is schoolboy's own stuff.
It's the buzz going around the ground as he picks up the ball. It's Gascoigne! And a wonderful goal! Gascoigne doesn't need them. Can he finish it now? He can! A fantastic goal by Paul Gascoigne.
Walsh, Gascoigne, it really is going somewhere now. It's a brilliant goal, and that's what he can do. And the crowd loved it.
Yep. Born out of the northeast, his career took him from England to Italy and Scotland. An FA Cup winner with Spurs and a 2-times champion at Rangers. 57 caps for England. I could go on, but let's hear from the man himself. We eagerly look forward to this. Paul Gascoigne, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
You all right? Good to see you, Simon and Martin.
Good to see you.
And yourself, Jim, as well, sorry.
Thank you very much. Before we go on, first and foremost, and you know why I'm asking, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm enjoying life at the moment. You know, I've done a bit of fly fishing while I've time off, I suppose, but it's all right down Poole, down in Bournemouth. Yeah, the weather's all right.
Nice part of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Did you bump into Souness down there? Did you bump into Souness down there? Or do you
a couple of times when he's pedalling along the beach with his top off.
Oh.
He must think he's a handsome chap. Still, at least he got rid of that syrup he used to wear. Yeah, with his curly top. But yeah, Souness and Harry, I bump into Harry now and again.
You see Harry Redknapp down there.
Just in Bedford. Yeah, that's the time I see him, I think.
Is it a good place for you to live, Paul?
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice area. I mean, you know, the weather's nice and all that, and there's the fishing. I love fishing, so it's not bad for the fly fishing up there as well. Well, it's about 45 minutes away, but yeah, I get left alone, so it's okay.
And just in the passing, nice for you to renew your acquaintances with this man,
great
Martin.
to see Paul with a smile on your face.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not
Back
bad.
again. We had lots of memories.
Quite
the
a few.
21's team, we first came across each other.
Yeah, we did.
I remember you driving to a game. And
I used to be a good guy till I met you as well. All right.
You had 5 mates turned up, didn't you, for your first on the 21's game?
Yeah.
You went straight to the bar, and I think you were a little bit nervous. You weren't sure how you were going to be introduced to everybody. And you had this sort of...
In the bar or on the pitch?
Well, on the pitch, you had loads of confidence. You were never really, lacking in confidence on the pitch. But off the pitch, I think you wanted that little bit of protection around you. Tell me about those early days on the 21s, because remember some of the guys, Dave Sexton...
Yeah, he was tough cookie, wasn't he? I mean, I remember he had to go at everyone, but I remember I scored on my debut, and there was no one in the crowd. And I think my dad was over then. And I scored, and there was nowhere to celebrate. So I jumped over the fence and celebrated on the motorway.
I remember.
Yeah, from the motorway to the cars. I just scored.
You were large.
Dave Sexton was a hard case. Julian Dix, I remember having to go. He had to go at him because he. Language, but I thought, oof, this guy. But yeah, we did have a bit of a laugh, but we did well as well up there, you know.
So listen, you've got this book out, Paul Gascoigne 8, and I'll just hold it up to camera for the viewers. The real Gaza revealed for the first time. But here's the thing, 8, Paul, has a significance, doesn't it? It's about 8 emotions that have run riot.
They have.
Your life.
Sort of.
Trust, joy, anticipation, anger, sadness, surprise, fear, and disgust.
But the one when I was doing with the ghostwriter, she said about the 8 demons sort of thing, and I went, yeah. And I went, I only know 3 really, so OCD, alcoholic and addict. And she went, I said, that's it. She went, oh, we'll Google you. I went, oh, no. And she went, that's 4, that's 5. I went, just put $88 and just get on with it. Yeah.
The 8 demons, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 8 emotions that sum
just
up
when I wake up, like every morning, you know, these sort of things I try and put in place before I leave the house is such, and I was most of them as well, you know.
I mean, as you get older, Paul, are you reflecting on your life and your career in a different way?
I find it hard to watch football. You know, some of the clips when I think, God, I wish I had that back, you know. You know, I wish, you know, when I finish playing, it's like it's such. I thank God, you know, would have done this when I was playing, but you know, like, you know, so you know, I loved that 90 minutes because that was my freedom. You know, obviously, especially after the World Cup, I got followed every day, you know, for the press and the lies, and like sometimes I coped with it well, sometimes I didn't. And then I just thought, you know, when I just thought I've got 90 minutes to enjoy myself, and I did. I made sure I enjoyed every, you know, for them. Oops, my sister.
That'll be the publisher.
And I'm on the phone. I mean, I'm on the radio. See you later. Sorry.
It proves we're live, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It proves we're live. Simon, you must have been on your feet when you watched this guy play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched him play. I mean, I'm a similar age to Paul. I went to the 96 game against Scotland. I had players in my dressing room, Curtis Fleming, that played with him at Middlesbrough, so I got the stories of Paul. But as a player, you talk about players. He knows this. He doesn't need me to say it, or anyone else to say it. There are generational great players, and there are opportunities that these players create on a field that most don't. And with great genius often comes troubles. You know, I knew George Best relatively well. I think it's not a controversial point to make that one of the most talented footballers that the country's ever produced is George Best, and one of the other ones, or the Isles, has produced is Paul Gascoigne. And both of them affected games in a way that the average player couldn't. What Paul could do with the ball and what he could make the opposition be wary of is very rare. Taking players out of the game, creating space. What that 1990 World Cup did for him individually probably challenges it as a result of it as well, because of the collective media attention into every aspect of your life, from who you got married. So I was reading the Mail column yesterday. I read the piece yesterday. Peter Beers just texted me this morning saying, make sure you look after Gaza.
Did he? Yeah.
But I was reading the serialisation of your book. So yeah, of course. I mean, of course, you can't help but look at Paul Gascoigne and think various emotions, like what talent.
Yeah.
A degree of empathy, and a degree of wistfulness about, and I suspect he has that in his own life.
We're going to get onto some of that media attention, Paul, and I witnessed it. I would say I was part of it to an extent in your time at Scotland when you were at Rangers. You pulled on the shirt of Newcastle, Tottenham, Lazio, Rangers, Middlesbrough, Everton, England. Where were you happiest?
Rangers, I love Rangers because when I was younger, when I was 15, where I lived, there was two guys that were Scottish, and I always talked about the Celtic Rangers derby, and that's all they ever talked about it, you know. And you talk about genius. It's funny, just when he said that, it was what I always remember Walter Smith. He said, "I need you to go for a." He said, "I need to see you now upstairs in the top tier." And I said, "What's wrong?" He says, "I've got to leave you be. You're a genius." I went, "What does that mean?" He says, you've got to do to let you do what you want. And no one does that with me. And he grabbed us by the throat and throttled us. And he went, "You better score tomorrow." I did. I made sure I got a couple of goals. But I remember when he said, because he got in trouble with him once, and he went, "All right, and you better get me a brace tomorrow." I went, "Okay then." I went to the shop and bought a brace. I didn't realise the brace was 2 goals. So I bought him a brace. I went, "There you go, Gaffer." He went, "No, I've been 2 goals lucky enough. I got a hat-trick." So.
You loved your time at Rangers. Is there any truth in the talk that before you played for them at Celtic Park, you were in the boardroom briefly?
Yeah.
And you poured yourself a large whiskey?
Yeah, that was one of them. And I scored as well. So and then it was the cup final. And it was like, I didn't have the bet. I had a row with Coyce just before the half-time. And I apologised. And then the gaffer went, "It was... have you had a drink?" I went, "No, honestly." He went, "Go and get one." I went, "Oh, cheers, Gaffer." And I went in the boardroom and I got 9 brandies. And I went, "I've had a drink now." He went, "Go out." And I scored 2 in 10 minutes and got man of the match. Then afterwards he went, "Right, you, home, we're all going out. You've had your drink." So I went, "Oh, God, please let us come." He went, "No." So I went home and I thought, you know what? I knew where they were with the players' wives. So I turned up naked. And then I'm dancing on the team. He just went off it again the next morning. I got a 3rd tier again. He used to always go to the 3rd tier. And no one was about and strangled us. But yeah, I loved it up there. My time was fantastic. Because when he come to it, I remember when my agents were talking to Lazio about what club I should go to. And when he said Glenn Hoddle...
Who's your agent? Mel Steen?
Yeah, Mel Steen was at the time. And I went, "No, I'm not going there." "Oh, Aston Villa." When he said Rangers, so I went, "No." I said, "I'm not going." So I'm walking out, and Dino's off went, "Glasgow Rangers." And I went, "Oh, I thought you meant Queen's Park Rangers." "Yeah, okay, get him over." So as my agents were talking, I spoke to Walter. I says, "I'm coming, don't worry. I'll take a massive drop in wages. I want to go to Rangers." Within a week, that was it, you know.
I mean, Walter turned up in Italy to speak to you directly, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Come to us. Come to Rangers.
Come to Rangers. He said it was his son. Because I remember it was 4 years before that was in Tampa holiday, Sarasota, that was it.
Yeah.
And he was there. And I went with my ex-wife. I went, "See that guy over there?" I says, "I'd love to play for him one day." And then 4 years later, I did, you know. Yeah. So
you did love it there, didn't you?
Yeah, he just said, you know, what you do, you get your smile back on your face. Because we took over Lazio. We had a new manager, Zeman, who was from Yugoslavia, and I didn't get on well with him. So he said, "You'd enjoy your football, yeah, you know, and you'd play with a smile, and the lads are good banter." And I did. I mean, Coyce was straight at me case, and Durante in the dressing room straight away. It was, well, I got my own back on Gordon Jury. I know that with the 2 trout. Because I remember, because we were coming to Euro 96, and I used to go fishing in the morning. I caught 2 trout, and I went in the dressing room. And Gordon Jury every day, because the Euro was coming up and saying, "We're going to batter, you're going to batter." You just hammered us every day. So I come in the training ground with 2 trout. Look where I caught, and Gordon Jury again. You bought them. So I wasn't training. Neither was Coisty. So they went out training. I went, "If you like, give us Gordon Jury's car case." So I got his car case, and I put 1 trout in the boot. And Coisty went, "You see that?" I went, "That's the idea." I said, I went in front of his car and I squeezed it in the front seat. I went, "He won't say that, will he?" So after training, he's got ready. He went and come back in the dressing room with 1 trout. He went, "You never catch me out, Gaz." I went, "Yeah, you're right." 2 weeks later, he went, "Where's the other trout, Gaz? Please tell me." He couldn't sell the car. So I had to buy him a new car, 70 grand. I was gutted.
Paul Gascoigne, you were gutted. A story about fish, and Gazza was gutted. A lot more from Paul Gascoigne coming up.
Good one.
The one and only Paul Gascoigne in studio with Simon, myself and Martin Keown this Monday morning. Paul's got a new book out, 8, The Real Gaza, revealed for the first time. And I'm looking forward to getting well into that later on today and tonight. Gaza in studio with us for the next half hour, maybe longer. We shall see how it goes. Mr. Gascoigne, we're all on tenterhooks, but that's what you bring. And we love it. The unpredictability of the man. So many people found that, not least this fella, Martin Keown, sitting beside me, who played against him. But here's the thing, Gaza, you won titles at Rangers and an FA Cup with Spurs. And we often talk about sliding doors moments in sport. And maybe this was yours, because back in 1988, there was a man called Alex Ferguson who really wanted you. And Sir Alex has spoken about the moment he knew he wanted to sign Paul Gascoigne.
And my 3 centre midfield players were Robson, Whiteside and Moses. 3 very competitive footballers and great footballers. And he absolutely tore them apart. He tore them apart. Ended up in one situation, he nutmegged Remy Moses right in front of me in the dugout. And went up to Remy after he did it and patted him on the head. And I was out that dugout, get that little so-and-so. And Robbo and Whiteside are chasing him up and down the pitch and couldn't get near him. And I says, after the game, I says to the chairman, don't leave here, get on that, into that chairman in Newcastle. I've got to get this boy. He's the best I've seen for years and years.
Now then, Gaza, take up the story, because the story goes that you promised Sir Alex that you would sign for him in Manchester United, right? What happened?
Well, just when I stopped, I was fearless of anyone. I wasn't giving a who I played against. I wasn't bothered. I wasn't worried, you know, what team was, and didn't realise how good these three were, really. I knew how good Brian Robson was, but I just had a row. I nutmegged Remy Moses in front of the dugout, and he was going off at Remy because I took the biggie out, but he come up to us, and he was only here. So I put my hand on top of his head, look, where's he? And I went, oh, there you are. And obviously he went off it. And then obviously after the game, and he rang up the house, and I went, Dad's Alex Ferguson. And I spoke to him, he says, look, I want you to sign for Rangers. So I went, yeah, okay.
You want to sign for United?
Sorry, for Man United. So I went, yeah, definitely, I really want to sign for you, I'll definitely sign. He said, well, I'm going on holiday. When I get back, will you be at Old Trafford? I went, yeah, definitely. So, okay, I'll see you at Old Trafford. Cheers. So, like, for 2 days, I'm like, Dad, Man United, I'm going to Man United. He's like, good on you, son. And then the phone goes, it's Irvin Scholar. So I went, Dad, it's Irvin Scholar, Tottenham. He went, no, tell me you're going to Man United. I went, my dad said, I'm going to Man United. He went, well, tell your dad, if you sign for Spurs, I'll give him 120 grand. So I went, Dad, if I sign for Spurs, I'm going to give you 120 grand. My dad went, what the F are you waiting for then, son? Get it signed.
Oh.
So then I was, and then I get close to Tottenham, and about 100 yards away, I passed Old Trafford, and I'm shaking. And I get 100 yards from the ground, and the phone goes again. It's my sister. What do you want? Well, if Mum's getting a house and my dad's getting a car, I want a sunbed. So I says, I'll definitely say that we buy my sister a sunbed. So he bought my sister a sunbed. It blew the house up. The bulbs were more powerful in the sunbed than it was in the house.
Do you look at that time, Paul? Do you think, we all have sliding doors moments, do you look at your career and think the direction of travel that you'd have gone on? You went to play for Venables at Spurs, who you had a great relationship with, right? When you look at Ferguson, you look at the Man United side, and you look at the build that was coming, do you look at it and go, my career, my culture around me, you might have avoided the London set, because I don't think that the Danny Bakers, and with all due respect to Chris, helped you in your career. Do you think that going to United might have been a different direction for you? Well, that team
finished higher than Man United, not realising like the Becks and the Schools coming through the next season, because the next season they won the league after that. You know, they were flying and buzzing, And you know, I'm thinking, you know, I look back and think if it wasn't Terry Venables, because I remember when I played against Spurs, I scored a couple. The first 3 games were Liverpool man of match, Man United man of match, and 2 against Spurs and that. And I'm walking off, and I was sponsored by Hummel. Remember, my contract was $3 grand a year for wearing the boots. But Tottenham had Hummel as well. And Terry Venables passed it, well, at least you've got the right boots on. And I looked and didn't realise what he meant. But he just said, if you sign for me, I'll have you playing for England within 10 games. And I really want to play for England. But at that time, they had Brian Robson and Neil Webb playing for
United.
Yeah. And God bless Neil Webb. He doesn't know this, but like two of them always play together with England. And I'm like, I'm never going to get a game yet. And like, I'm probably the only happiest man in the country at the time when Neil Webb got injured against Sweden, did his Achilles. I was like, oh, never mind. But inside, I was like, yes, my chance now, you know.
But here's the thing, Gaza, if you'd played for Ferguson,
yeah, exactly.
This story might have been so different, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And the medals, would he have got hold of you?
Yeah, well, no. In the stands, Wayne Rooney slept with a granny. Ryan Giggs went with his brother's wife. So yeah, I might have fitted in probably, if you think about it. What a matey. That would be right up my street.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen,
I would have done the full four.
Good morning.
I would have done the full 4-1 hit.
Yeah, but Gaza, here's the thing. As the hilarity dies down, you wouldn't have messed about with Sir Alex,
definitely
would you?
Not. No.
You would have listened to him.
I went to Man United
He
game.
might even have put you from there to there as a player.
I mean, look, at 4 years ago, I went to watch Man United play with Katie, my manager at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the Man United game and I'm sitting in the lounge bed and a fella comes up and says, Fergie wants to see you now in his office. I went, oh, God. I still start shaking then. When his office went, you come here, you little bee. You went, that should have signed for me. And I went, I know, and I was still shaking then, you know.
Let's ask Martin, do you imagine what he could have done in a United shirt?
Yeah, I mean,
No
the thing is, I think, Paul, you know, you're a guy that acts in the moment, aren't you? I mean, when you hear the stories, what you say, what you do, you express yourself so well. You know, maybe not in the right way sometimes. You said what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You know, some outrageous things you said. You know, the Norwegian TV asked to speak to you.
No filter.
Yeah.
You gave them a little personal message and you told them where to go. Do you know?
Yeah,
So that was
it
always
looked for that.
You had this sort of thing in your head. But on a football pitch, I mean, as a player, I mean, where did you get that arrogance and confidence to be playing? You're playing against Paul McGrath, you know, top players at the time, Brian Robson. So he sees that in that first game. Where's that giving you? Where's that confidence coming from such a young man?
I never really watch. I used to watch the old match of the day when I was younger, like, you know, and I used to watch. I watched Cruyff do that turn. And I went, I'm going to try that. So I got the ball straight outside and practiced it straight away. And I don't know. Sometimes, like some of the stuff I did on the pitch, I not know how I did it, and I'll go back home and I'll watch it on TV. Like the old match of the day, and think, God, how did I do that?
Was it to be the centre of attention, to be the top man? What was driving you on the football pitch?
I don't know. I used to, like, Tottenham was funny. I used to say to the guys, lads, before the game, do us a favour, lads, I'm really tired of getting man of the match after games. Can someone do well today so I don't have to go upstairs and get pestered? So, I'd say, like, the England players, do us a favour, guys, just, if you're tired, give us a ball. I'll keep a hold of it for 5 minutes and then you can have it back. And I'll just, some of the things I used to say to them.
Do you know what? We're going to talk England the other side of 11 o'clock. Who's your all-time favourite player?
Brian Robson is unbelievable. I mean, he come back from 3 broken legs and his collarbone, but he's just... when I made my debut for him, I always remember when he played for us, West Bromwich Albion, that header he scored, and I just thought what a player he was. And it was just when I played for England, and we're walking onto the pitch for my first debut game, and he went, Gazza, look, leave any of the challenges, leave them for me, I'll take the knocks because I'm coming to the end of my career and you're just starting yours, or any of the headers, I'll take the stitches and that. I mean, I wish I'd have took notice of him. Like,
it was a
36 operations.
great aura around Brian, wasn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. The respect that the players had for him, like, you know what I mean? But
we're going to talk England in a minute, Gaza, and we'll also talk England with a view to what they might or might not do at the World Cup next summer with Thomas Tuchel. Paul Gascoigne on studio with us live on talkSPORT. It's 11 o'clock. Good morning, everybody. It is 6 minutes past 11 o'clock this Monday morning. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Martin Keown, and we are live on talkSPORT. This man in studio who's joined us this morning has this studio, has this building, has the whole place in stitches. Paul Gascoigne is with us live in studio, and we are delighted to get behind him and his new book 8, which is The Real Gaza, revealed for the first time. And I cannot wait to get into that in the course of the rest of the day and this week. Paul, I have to say, you've set the place alight this morning. There is Ben, one of many. Jim, Simon, you've got to make Gaza a regular on your show. We need him every morning. I'm not sure we could go through with it every morning, Simon, but we'll do our bit. You enjoying it?
Yeah. I suppose I'm with the three good guys, Simon, Martin, yourself, Jim.
Good man. Well, you're most welcome. And people out there listening, people watching the show this morning are loving it, Paul, and we are too. Listen, we want to get into the England situation, and looking back, Martin can come in it with me on this, because Simon, as an England fan, Italia 90, you must have thought this is it. Your first call up for England in 1988 by Sir Bobby Robson. What did that... Italia 90, when you look back at it, what did that do for you in terms of your own popularity, your own projection and your profile?
I don't know. I just remember after the World Cup, because Bobby Robson, not like today's players where the waves go out and all, but he wouldn't let us ring home after games. He didn't let us read newspapers or watch anything on TV what was going on back home, so we didn't know anything. I just now and again slide my phone into when I was having a shower and call me, Dad, how am I doing? Yeah, doing all right, son. Okay, I've got to go now. And hide the phone, so he'd never watch it. But Bobby Robson was like, you're not going anywhere. And I remember him calling me daft as a brush. I went out trading with a brush in my sock, and he recognised it. He went, I know it said, move it. Okay. But he followed us everywhere I went in that World Cup, There was a couple of times I wanted to drink, and I used to get a cappuccino and a Baileys and take the froth off the cappuccino and put it on top of the Baileys. That was like, had a couple of them a slide, but it was just one time where he'd give us all a day off, and I can't sunbathe. I'm from Newcastle, and all the players were sunbathing, and I'm walking about, what can I do? And I seen a cocktail hut on the beach. I went, oh, that'll do me. So I go there on my own. It's just one guy working in the cocktail hut, and I gives a pina colada. So he gives a pina colada, and I thought, this is a life, playing for my country in the World Cup. Son, just qualified to play against Belgium. I love pina colada, I love it. I get Gaza. I went, oh no, it's him. He's going to go mad with this. So he went, what you got there? And I just remember, I've got a strawberry milkshake offer. He went, give me just that. I went, oh no. So I've looked behind the guy, Bobby Robson, and I went, don't. So he cottoned on and gave him a milkshake. So this is unbelievable. So I'm like, oh no. So he's tried his milkshake. He went, this is different. He said, does it taste your skin? And then he tasted mine. He went, and then he tasted his, and he went, hold on, this is not the same. And the guy went, what do you mean? He went, where's my umbrella in cherry and sword? Oh, well, that's it. I've got to be with that. So about 8 pina coladas later, I'm like, England.
Now, I'm not going to let you off, because we will, maybe in the final part today, we'll talk about where you're at regards alcohol and other things. But anyway, we'll get to that. Gaza, in Italia 90, the booking, the infamous moment, the tears on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean,
you got booked, and you knew that would put you out of final if England had got there. I mean, how do you reflect on that?
I was actually thinking, I was having I honestly thought, at the end of that game, I thought my career, that was me and my career, not knowing I was only 22 and a half. But people didn't realise as well, before going out that, I remember getting stopped, walking out the tunnel, I got stopped by the owner of Juventus. And he went, I own Juventus, I own Fiat. He went, after this tournament, will you sign for Juventus? I'm like, wow, I'm just about to play against Germany. In 5 minutes, he wants to sign for Juventus. So I had that in my mind. But
Mr. Agnelli.
Yeah, that's it, Mr. Agnelli. But I think, I had the best time of my life. Training every day with the guys, playing in the World Cup. And our fans were fantastic, and I had such a laugh there. I was playing table tennis every day, playing tennis every day. I was I remember these players spent a half an hour with us. right, half an hour. And I remember one time I was bored and Brian Robson got injured. He did his Achilles or whatever. So I remember going into the toilet and coming out near the swimming pool with the toilet roll around my head, around my arm, and walked in front of Bobby Robson. He went off it. He went, I can't believe it. I've lost me captain. And look what's happened to you now. I slipped in the swimming pool. And he's absolutely hated us. And all the lads were laughing. And I just took the bands off. I went, I'm only joking, Gaffer. And just like, come back, yeah, no, you. But he was after us. But, you know, the night before the semi-final, I was rooming with Chris Waddle. And it was 11 o'clock at night. And I went, Chris, I've got to go for a walk. And he went, you can't go for a walk. I said, you've got a big game tomorrow. Probably biggest game in your life, semi-final of the World Cup. Well, no, I'll be back. I won't be long. So as I left the room, I heard two guys playing tennis. And I went, I like tennis. I'm going to play this. So I'm playing tennis for like till 10 to 1 in the morning.
With total strangers?
Yeah, two strangers. I've played them on my own and I was sweating my nuts off.
The night before the semi-final,
yeah, and I
just mad in a tennis court.
Once again, I just heard, Gaza, it was Bobby Robson again. He must be watching every move I made. So I've turned around and I've looked at him. He's walked past me. I've dropped the racket. I can hear him shouting at these two Americans. Do you not realise who he is? He's got the biggest game in his life. And you're playing. They must have looked at him. So I ran to the room and I went to Chris Waddle. I says, Chris, if anyone knocks on the door, he's not knowing. Bobby Robson just tell him I'm sleeping. He went, yeah, okay. So I've gone to bed and the door, honestly, it was like getting smashed in. Chris went, who's that? He went to Gaffer. Where is he? Oh, he's sleeping. Sleeping? He's just been playing tennis for 45 years. You're telling me he's sleeping? As Chris looked at me, he went, have you? And I just went, and then I just heard a bit of a piece of paper come through the door and I'll see you tomorrow morning. And then he went, he says, I can't believe it. He says, I've already called you daft as a brush last night. What you did was not normal, but you're not normal, are you? I went, no. And he says, but today you're playing against Luther Matthias, the best midfield player in the world. And I looked at Sir Bobby Robson and I went, no, I am. And I walked off. I always remember looking around after about 20 yards and he's still going, come here.
Shaking his head.
Yeah, going off it.
Listen, guys, I fast forward to 98 and the World Cup and Glenn Hoddle was in there. He told you weren't going to the World Cup finals with England in 1998. And your reaction was a crazy one.
I think we fell out because he said, Gaza, I found God. And I says, that must have been a great pass.
What happened?
I don't know. I know all the players went out, and I was like with Chris Evans that night. And obviously someone took a picture and it went in the newspapers. And 6 of the players were still in Soho at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And not one of them hit the papers. And then, I was obviously going through a divorce thing. And he just must have thought I was right for the tournament, which I was right, It was nice of all the players to say, we're doing better because I was here in the World Cup. But I was devastated.
You made that squad, Mark.
Yeah, that was the year we won the double, Arsenal double, and there was quite a lot of us involved. And I remember you were at poolside and you were like, I think you knew you weren't going, Paul.
Yeah,
I think you had that
because I was so close with Glenn Roeder. And I went in the room where Glenn Roeder was obviously picking his squad. He obviously had a word with the coaches. And I looked at Glenn Roeder and he just stared at us. And it's not like Glenn normally like putting my arm around us or whatever. And he just didn't come anywhere near us. And just seen tears come in his eyes. And I just knew. I thought, I ain't going here.
I know you were devastated, but I actually feel that it impacted so much on the rest of the squad. It became such a huge story that it took something away from us.
Yeah.
Because it was like Bobby Robson gave you everything, didn't he? And you gave him. It was kind of with you, it was all or nothing. And he went against you and it was like so late.
Yeah, exactly.
That it impacted. I know it was difficult for you.
Yeah, especially, when you get just one day. One day you're thinking you're playing in the next World Cup and then the next minute you're on an airplane going back home. But I remember getting back home and the first person I rang was Brian Robson. And I says, I can't believe this. And but I was told by Terry Venables and Wallace Smith, be careful. He says, because he's going to try and make a name for himself. No, it would be me. But it took us about a year to get over that.
You reacted. Do you think he was trying to make a name for himself by not having you?
I don't know why he dropped us. He said it was because I was going through a divorce. But a lot of players go through divorces or different things. There's nothing to that. doesn't matter what had going on in my life. Once I was on that football pitch, all my problems went away until I finished playing, you know. So
did Hoddle not say to you, though, guys, get fit?
No.
And then there was the odd time you were eating kebab.
No, because you see, get fit. 2 weeks before that, we met up again. We played South Africa at Old Trafford or something, and I battered him. I got man of the match, and he went, oh, because about 5 minutes ago or something, I did me cough a bit. He went, I need you fit for the World Cup. And then obviously we qualified against Italy, where I was, hit the headlines saying Gascoigne back, conquered, I battered the Italians.
Singing songs and a beer in your hand, I think that did it for you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think so. When I look back at it, because I remember going to the room and that afterwards, and I remember being like playing on the piano and having a drink, sort of thing. But like you said, with the training we had was intense, and So, but like I said, it took us a year to get over that.
To go over it. Did you smash up his office?
Yeah, his room. Well, I remember just going and I just knew I had a rough idea that I wasn't going to the World Cup. So I had, I think Phil Neville was at the room. He must have panicked because he was in the room, and I kicked the door in, 2-footage TV, and I smashed picked up his wooden, smashed his lamps and everything, went off it. And I think Phil did a runner quite quickly. I think it's the quickest he's ever moved, Phil. And then obviously he's like, apparently the place was stayed. Bits of the TV, bits of his rooms on memorabilia on behind the bar. Gaza did this. So
seriously, Gaza, when you look back at that now, you regret that, do you?
Yeah, of course, yeah, big time. Because not knowing, like people say, enjoy this World Cup because you never know, it could be your last one. Well, '94 I broke my arm, so I missed the one in America with Graham Taylor. Well, I always call him Carlton. What he's shouting now all the time.
Well, listen, the other side of this break, we'll talk about Euro 96 because it was unbelievable what you did there. And maybe a bit about England going into the World Cup next season. Paul Gascoigne in studio with us live on talkSPORT. Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown were in the company of the one and the only Paul Gascoigne. Paul's new book is out. Simon was just having a look at it there. Paul Gascoigne 8, the real Gaza revealed for the first time. Paul, we cannot have you in studio without talking about that incredible time in the Euros under Terry Venables, and you ran riot against us at Wembley. Euro 96. That goal against Scotland, incidentally, was that the best goal you think you've ever scored?
Yeah, well, I imagine now, I always started at Rangers and I got hammered for 3 months. Pelters in the dressing room every day. I used to dread it, and I'm thinking, and then eventually, look, guys, you've seen what I'm like when I play for Rangers, but you haven't seen what I'm like when I play for my country. I'm different, so just wait. And I used to sit behind the Gorham next to us in the dressing room at Rangers. But, you know, we did the dentist chair thing, and I went through that, and then I thought, you know what, I was getting followed by the press, and then I went to Wales and hid in a little place and did a little bit of fishing, and then I went to, then I got followed again by the press, and then I went to the health farm about 10 days to sort myself out, make sure I was in the right frame of mind. But it was the first game was the worst, because we used to get off the bus and every lad's going to the dressing room. Well, I used to go up the ramp. At the top of the ramp and get the feel of the fans, and then go back in the dressing room ready for it. And I remember going to the first game, going to the top of the ramp, and a guy comes out, England tracksuit on. I went, Gaza, can I have a word? I went, yeah, who are you? He went, I'm the manager of the England women's team. They've just played. They want to meet you in the dressing room. I went, okay. I swear, I went in, and all I can see is just like 44 boobs and 22 like down below.
Okay.
All nude, and I went, wow. I've got to play in half an hour, so I've gone back to the dressing room.
Quite motivational.
The first game, 70 minutes, Terry Venables takes it up. He says, Gaza, what happened? Your mind wasn't on the game. I dare not tell him what I've just seen. You know what I mean? I've just thought, keep it myself. So the second game, I went, right, guys, look, whoever scores, there's a dentist chair, because I've just been Kane, and fortunate for me, like, I scored. But I just, when I think about it, I mean, I just at a glance in my eye, I seen Colin Henry coming for us. So I knew what I had to do. If he had to slow it down, I would have took the ball down and still beat him anyway. I mean, I seen him not long ago in London. He says, Gaza, what are you doing in London? I thought you lived in Bournemouth. And I said, what are you doing in London? I thought I left you at Wembley. But he's like, he hates it when I say it. But yeah, that celebration, I dare not look at Andy Gorham. Just ran past him because I knew he'd be livid.
Listen, Gaza, in that last commercial break, you were having a word with Simon. I was having a word with Martin. Tell me about the atmosphere in the England camp when Hoddle didn't take him to 98.
Yeah, I mean, look, Glenn had to make the decision that he felt was best for England, but the devastation it left, you know, maybe for the nation as well, but certainly in that dressing room afterwards, all the talk was of you and not being there, who else? Because I think when it came to a World Cup, that was your stage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You look back, 96, it's in England, it's Wembley. The bigger the stage was when you turned up.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
in 98, you were getting ready for it. And then when they pulled the plug on it, it devastated the group. I think it was such a talking point within the group.
Yeah.
It was counterproductive, the decision he made.
Yeah, it was really nice of the players, like, do a bit in their books saying, you know, I would have done better if I would have been in the World Cup and that, which was nice of the guys to say that. But for me personally, it was like disastrous. It was a nightmare, you know. Like I said, I don't know what had effect on it. I know I remember getting on on the jet going back with Ian Walker and I think it was Dean Dublin. I think I'm too sure all in tears and that. I was distraught, me.
Well, it didn't happen for you then. Do you think it might happen for England next summer in America? Do you think have they got it within themselves to go all the way?
We've been saying it since 1966, you know. I mean, in our World Cup 1990, you think about that, Chris Waddle, when it hit the post, could have went either side, like, you know. In fact, I remember, Chris, when we were on the plane back, and we're just about 5 minutes arriving at Luton, I went, I just don't know why, I just got in the mic, and I went, Chris, you know your penalty? Yeah. I says, this is where it landed, your ball in Luton Airport. He's like, well, he said.
Do you have a word for Chris Waddle? I mean, I think he's one of the best players that I ever played against.
He was lethal.
But he supported you
he
so
was,
well.
He was fantastic. You know, I haven't seen him for years. I will speak to him now and again. But after that, he was especially at Tottenham. You know, when I followed at Tottenham, he looked after us because he had already been there a year. And I don't know why, but I needed a translator. Well, I say, but no one could understand him. When I was saying Geordie, he was like, Chris, what's he saying? Chris had to translate for us. It was embarrassing. But yeah, he was, what a player, though. When he dropped his shoulder, half the crowd went out the stadium. You know.
But what about those England players now, Gaza? I mean, you've got Bellingham.
Yeah.
You've got other players there of a seriously high calibre. How about Harry Kane and the impact he's made at Bayern Munich?
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Just, you know, I'm still thinking about that now. Why Bayern Munich and not Real Madrid? I mean, loads of people would have went to Real Madrid, but it's obviously seen someone there, you know. And he's what's it called? Even his first game, I think he scored on his debut, and he's never stopped scoring since. But when you're in a team as good as Bayern Munich, you know, you expected to score because the players around him are going to supply him with goals. With chances left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
You know, like when we say Lineker, I just remember when we say Lineker and he didn't score for the first few games. So I pulled Terry Venables and I went, you told me he was good, he's crap. And he went, what do you mean? I went, he's not even scored. He went, give me a chance. So it took us a while to work him out because Lynch do his finger like it. So that means he's spinning off. And if he's going like that, he's coming short. And then the next game after that, he scored 4. And he won the Golden Boot. And I was like, the end of the season.
We're going to jump into
I called him a lady boy.
Right, I bet you did. We're going to jump into a final break, 11:30. The other side of that, we'll wrap it up with Paul.
Pardew says Luton need to make the playoffs at least.
And maybe a young coach with progressive ideas and the enthusiasm to lift everybody will be much needed. I hope he gets some guidance. He needs some guidance.
Wilshere was interim boss at Norwich at the end of last season. Now, were Scotland fans right to boo off a winning team? Andy Robertson says yes.
I've got no problems at all, and I think it also was a part of nerves from the fans as well, and rightly so. You know, the last 5 minutes it's 2-1, they throw their big centre-backs up, which we should have never have been in that position, so no, completely understand it.
Scotland were unconvincing in their 2-1 win over Belarus, but still have World Cup qualification in their own hands. Craig Bellamy believes a special moment is coming for Wales ahead of their crunch qualifier at home to Belgium tonight. Meanwhile, Julian Nagelsmann said sorry for calling Michael O'Neill's long ball approach not particularly easy on the eyes. Northern Ireland host Germany tonight. The winner goes top of the group. And Australia captain Pat Cummins admits he probably won't be fit for that first Ashes test. He's struggling with a back problem.
We get into like bowling prep, I think, next week, so probably a couple of weeks away before actually putting on the spikes and bowling out on turf. But yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks. Kind of each session feels better and better.
Somebody sending in a message there saying, I went over to my mate's house one night and Gaza was sleeping on his sofa. He said it was a perfect house guest. Paul Gascoigne in studio with myself, Simon and Martin Keown. As we finish off with Gaza at this particular time, been looking at his book, Paul Gascoigne 8, The Real Gaza Revealed for the first time. Paul, it's fair to say that you don't shirk anything in this book, though.
No.
You do take on some of the subject matter that is probably tough for you to speak about today, but nonetheless you speak about it. Your challenges off the field of play coming up the 28th of October, 28th of this month. I'm 14 years clean, no alcohol at all. That's just the way I've gone about it.
You got that right, Jim.
And I'm
what the date or not?
I think so, yeah. And
That's
just keep cracking on with it. You were a huge talent on the pitch, but it's well documented you had challenges off it.
Yeah.
Do you still drink?
You know, the last couple of years have just been like 2-day blips, and then maybe 4 months without a drink, and then, you know, it's like with me, I think it's if I had a drink for like 2 days, it's a consequence. Like the last time was, I think it was about a few months ago, or whatever, and I didn't have a drink for 3 or 4 months, and then I had a day off just having a bottle of Serrano. And I went to put the bottle in the bin, and I tripped on the front mat and fractured my kneecap. So that was in the hospital now. So then I got through that. So really, it's the consequences, you know. Years ago, I used to be a happy drunk, and now it's like if I have a drink and I'm a bit drunk, then I get sad, and then I lock myself away. It's not as if I go out and drink. It's like I always indoors on my own, so it's a waste of time anyway, you know. It's not as if I go out and enjoy it. And I just sit there and watching a movie and then fall asleep, and then I think, what did I do that for, you know? And then it takes us another week to just get back to like the poor personality again, you know. So, you know, me and drink don't get on really, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know, I'm better without it. So it's just, with me, it's more of like, got to keep myself busy, you know. I don't know why. It's like at the moment I'm like a housewife on my own, though. OCD is like cleaning up for no reason. What can I do? I can clean up now. And it's like, if there's a bit of fluff and I pick it up, then I have to go and get the brush out and brush the whole house. It drives me nuts. So sometimes with this OCD, it's like living 24 hours, 48 hours in 24-hour day, which is stupid, really.
Are you happy enough in your own company?
Yeah. Well, it's harder because people say, why'd you go home and just sit in the bed and watch the TV or whatever? I says, listen, when you've been, like, maybe not being big-headed, but when you've been out and you get stopped every 2 minutes, people want a selfie or talk to you about this or that, it's like, it can be draining. Like, so it's nice sometimes. Like, not long ago, I was shopping, going down the aisle, and a guy was coming towards us. He's got 2 kids. One was 5 and something like that. One was 6. And he's got closer to us. He's looked, and he went on his knees and started crying his eyes out. And the kids are like, looking at us like, what you hit me dad for? It's like, mate, get up. Kids think I've hit you. He's like, oh, sorry, but you're my hero. The kids don't know yet. I said, well, they will do. God almighty. So, you know, I still have that. And sometimes I feel like I'm getting pestered more now than I did when I actually played. But the public have been fantastic. I think it was because my dad said, look, remember how famous you come or how good you are. Remember where you come from. And I always took that. So since I made my first game, I've never turned down an autograph or a photo, you know.
Do you struggle to deal with hero status?
No, not at all. You got so used to it over the years, and I got it at such a young age regards come back from the World Cup, because I remember getting off the plane, just getting on and getting in it, I went, Gaza, be careful. Just be careful. And I didn't know what he meant until I actually got off the plane. It was like, wow. You know, and when you're actually in it, sometimes you're enjoying it, you know, think, oh, this is fantastic. Like anywhere else in the world, once you're famous for life. But in England, when you're famous, there's only one way to go after that. They'll try and put you down and down, you know. So I have the battles with them, you know, and sometimes you get tired, like just trying to keep the wrong people happy. And not the right people
it's
happy.
a topic we speak about quite a lot, Simon, isn't it? The media attention.
I do. I agree.
And this habit in this country of putting people down. At times you didn't help yourself, Paul.
No,
you admit
no.
that.
Well, I subscribe to that view. I subscribe to that view that in this country we like to build people up so we can whittle them down. It's a country that looks at people with envy rather than admiration sometimes. And sometimes there's a reason for that, and sometimes it's not justified. But I think culturally it's not something that I enjoy. Paul was, to some extent, the architect of his own downfall in certain respects. But, and it attracted certain people, like I made the point earlier on, and I'm not trying to be controversial. I think when I watched Paul and looked at him, I always thought, I wish someone would look after him better. Not just because he's entitled to it, but because he probably needs it. And when I saw the showbiz element of things, mean-spirited, but my attitude was, he needs proper looking after, and this is not the right kind of influences, and that was my big thing for you.
Yeah, he's right, you know, because if you look at the today's players, they've got everything on a play for them. You know, I went to the Tottenham training ground when it just had sort of got built, and there's this guy, honestly, he was huge. He was about 6'6", full of muscle. Now, when he must be the fitness coach, are you? He went, no. I said, what do you do then for Tottenham?
Security.
Yeah, he says, if the wife calls us up at 2 o'clock in the morning, the baby's crying, I'll go and look after the baby. I went, wow. He says, if they need shopping, I have to do the shopping for them. I said, what else do they do? And then the players like park the car up and go walk 100 yards where we would, and they've got buggy cars. So they park the car up, then sit in the buggy car, and then get taken to like 50 yards. And the buggy car is like, wow, how easy it is for them.
Yeah.
And I thought that's why they would struggle, because they've got everything on a play for them. We were played. You know, we had the graph for everything we had. You know, my gym was at Newcastle. It was a little bowling hut. We was being there with just, you know, little weights in there and the scruffy weights and stuff like that.
Well, what are we now since you finished playing? 20, 22, 23 years?
Botox,
since you stopped playing football?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 37, yeah. 21, 22 years, yeah.
And have you come to terms with the loss? Because listening to you, I don't think you have.
No. I find it hard to watch it.
With the loss, because it is. Tell us about when you stopped playing.
Yeah.
And I think with you, though, it was times 10, wasn't it? Because of the notoriety you had.
Yeah, because
the
that was
superstar that you became. And I think you enjoyed it probably too much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, like I said, everything was on a play for us, you know. Like if I went on the TV and said I'd love a guitar, I'd go home and there'd be like 3 or 4 guitars outside my door. It's like, wow, almighty. And, you know.
You also talked about you find it difficult to watch a current day player. Because I actually watch it now with joy.
Yeah, do you?
Whereas for years, it was difficult to watch because we couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's hard to watch someone doing what you enjoy most of all.
Well, you couldn't do that much against me, could you, really? I mean, I destroyed Arsenal quite a few times.
Luckily you went off to Italy.
I started off with scoring with the sock on my debut, so Dave Seaman had no chance, bless him. I ruined that fella. But now, I mean, you know, the big games with Arsenal were intense. I didn't really enjoy them because it was tough. But you know, I did score a couple of goals. But for me, it's like I can't see a crap player getting paid 300 grand. He can't even trap a bag of cement. It just drives me nuts. But you know, England. You talk about England now. We've got some.
Who do you see in that England team?
Well, I think
it reminds you of yourself.
We keep the ball at the back. I like Rashford. I just wish he would smile now and again. It winds me up. Like when you score, smile at least because you know because. He says he got a bloke that's got 3 kids and he takes them to the maths. It costs a lot of money. Then the whole one England share, it costs money. One food costs money. And then he probably gets home about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning after driving home, where the players are back home at 11:30, getting massive wages. And if you're going to score, please at least celebrate. Like,
have fun.
Yeah, because, you know, when I remember being a ball boy at Newcastle years ago when I was 15. Now, I watched Chris Waddle play for the reserves or something, and then I used to be like ball boy, watched it. I stopped being a ball boy when I remember standing in the dugout when Cloughie was there, Brian Clough, and I went, oh my God. I went, no. And I just thought, and then afterwards in the dress, one of my little jobs was clean up the dressing room. And it was his dressing room, Brian Clough's. He came to us again. And I went, I just can't wait to get rid of this guy because he's getting on my nerves. And then I remember I played for Tottenham against Nottingham Forest. And I beat a couple of players. I've run that ball out the byline. I went, oh God. So I put my head down. I'm walking back and I'm just here, Gascoigne. I went, that doesn't sound like Terry Venables. And my head's still down, and I just looked at Brian Clough going off with this, get back for your effing team now. I went, oh, okay. And I've ran back, and I've looked at Terry Venables, I went, oh, God, jeez. You know, so, but yeah, you know, but I think with England team, especially last year or the day before, you had so many just individual players.
Yeah.
You know, the Bellingham one, and then Rashford. It was.
What about now? Do you think they're capable of winning it?
Yeah, well, if the keeper stops having as much touches than the rest of the players, I just, you know, it's all about passing nowadays. You never see any player like, I'd like to see a player get the ball and say, have a go at him, man. Go on, just two players. Because, you know.
Cole Palmer does that, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, yeah. Yeah, he's unbelievable.
He bucks the trend, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I know we've got to pass this, but I'm going to run.
Yeah, and I like Foden. He'll have a little go, you know. I like him. We've got quite a few individual players. But I mean, I watched him the other night. I didn't think it was any Star Trek. I wasn't on, so I decided to watch the England game. So
it strikes me you don't really enjoy watching much football.
No, I don't know. I think it's just the way that I played. You know, like I said, some of the stuff I did on the pitch, and I'm thinking, how did I do that? But you look at some of the players, and think, just have a go. You know, it's 0-0, it's 5 minutes to go. Just have it, and then I'm just keeping it at the back, and it winds me up, and I can't attack it.
Listen, at the end of all this, and the book's out, and many people will buy it and read it. I don't know how to phrase. How do you want fans, just not just England fans, football fans everywhere, people in general, to remember Paul Gascoigne?
Well, I'm not dead yet.
You're still with us.
How do you want them to think of you?
How do you want people to think of you? Thanks, Simon.
Just a really, really nice, genuine guy. You know, that would, you know, I'd do anything for anyone.
Ruthless on the pitch.
Ruthless. I just knew I was good enough. I wasn't bothered who I played against. I just knew when I was, if I was on the ball, I just knew beforehand. I just knew how good I was going to be. Like, I used to be in the tunnel against players and look at them and just say, mate, I remember seeing the Port of Cecil guy, poor guy. I went, yeah, mate, I just heard your headlines. I says, and welcome to your worst nightmare, mate. Bless you. I bagged in 2 goals, and then after the game, I couldn't resist it. I just took my boots off, went in their dressing room and gave them, yeah, mate, one day you'll play like that.
Brilliant.
He still got them. I've seen them not long ago, I think, yeah.
Oh, Gaza, listen. Now, you know that iconic picture of Vinnie Jones and you?
Yeah,
when he looks as if he's squeezing your crown jewels.
Yeah,
was he? Or were you hamming it up?
Well, I nearly lost my family allowance, put it that way. But, yeah, Vinny, he meant it, put it that way, honestly. Yeah.
Guys, what can we say? Thank you so much for being with us live.
Pleasure.
On the show this week.
Good to see Martin and Simon.
Wish you well,
himself, to be fair.
It's good to see you.
Cheers.
Stay well. Paul Gascoigne with us live on talkSPORT.
Showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+GambleAware.org.
Paul Gascoigne has come and gone, and we were delighted to see him. Thanks to everybody for all the messages that are still coming in, and I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of messages. We're joined by Matt Gibson from BetMGM to look at today's sporting events and discuss the odds round and about them. Matt, we are a Gaza-free zone now, but by Jove, did he entertain us. We spoke mostly about England, but what about Scotland last night? And we're largely agreed. Not very impressive, although job done. They got the win.
Yeah, it's tough to follow Gaza, lads. I won't lie to you. But Jim, I don't know how the nerves are, mate. After last night, 1-0 up, Belarus get one chalked off. Steve Clarke was quite damning of the performance, but 3 points nonetheless. To win the group, Jim, you're 5-2. It's a big international break coming next for you boys. Greece away, Denmark at home. Cards on the table, Jim. Can you do it? Can you win the group and get automatic? Let's have a prediction.
Yes, of course they can. Come on, of course they can. Martin, can't they? Come on. Not in last night's showing, but they're capable of it.
Well, we talked to me. The manager will regroup and find out, particularly what went wrong on that occasion. Got to get a result in Greece. And maybe that helps them a little bit. I think when they feel like they're the favourites, they don't seem to perform, Jim, in the way you might expect, as they certainly were last night. Belarus gave it a right good go and probably should have got something out of the game.
Yeah. What are the odds now then, Matt? How are they looking?
Group finishing position to win it. Denmark have got the whip hand, haven't they? I think because of the fantastic goal difference. 7-25, Denmark are to win the group. Scotland 5-2. So outsiders, Martin says Scotland behave better when they're outsiders. So maybe 5-2 is not a bad price for the upset.
Yeah, maybe indeed. Northern Ireland, Germany, Wales, Belgium. What are you thinking?
Yeah, still plenty going on for the home nations. Northern Ireland, despite being sort of 6 points, level on points with Germany and Slovakia in that group, I think the bookies certainly think they've got a job on tonight. 15-2 at home to beat Germany. Germany as short as 8-25 with good reason. Germany have won the last 10 games against Northern Ireland, so we're expecting a tough night for them this evening. Wales versus Belgium. I think this is really an interesting one. Over in Cardiff, we know how good the Wales fans were at Wembley. Thomas Tuchel was quite vocal about how good of an atmosphere they brought. They'll need to be on form tonight. The reverse fixture, Wales versus Belgium. Last time Wales were 3-0 down. They brought it back to 3-3, and then they lost by the odd goal in 7. So they've proved they can certainly score goals against Belgium, but they'll need plenty more than what they showed against us on Thursday night. I think, fellas, they are outsiders at 19-5, but home atmosphere. Do you give them a chance, or do you think Belgium, with the likes of De Bruyne, Courtois, Doku, Trossard, do you think they'll have too much in the bag?
I think when he reels off those Belgian players, the names of the Belgians, Simon, they know they've got a job in their hands at Welsh, don't they?
And I think the Belgians have got a job on their hand to make sure they beat the Welsh. On paper, they'll beat them, but the Welsh will turn up and they'll make it. They'll have to beat them. They won't be allowed to beat them. And when the Welsh have played in previous times, certainly when we saw them play in the World Cup, and they didn't turn up. This Welsh side will turn up, so the Belgians will have to play well to beat them.
I mean, they didn't turn up at Wembley.
No, but I mean, okay. I mean, you look at that game in isolation, you say it's a friendly. Craig Bellamy played it all down, and so did his players on the field. But I think in this game, I think the Welsh will turn up, and they'll make it difficult. I don't expect them to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got a point out of it.
I thought Wales were really, really disappointing at Wembley. I went to the match. Goals they conceded, it was bizarre. Their fans were magnificent, by the way.
Were they?
Yeah, absolutely magnificent. So let's see. I mean, Belgium look favourites, and they've got the quality. De Bruyne is still doing it. I expect Belgium to get the result they need.
Okay, Luke Littler got the result he needs. Triumphs at the World Grand Prix of Darts. He's the man, right?
It's getting kind of inevitable, isn't it, with Littler? He obviously gets past Luke, but Humphreys had more 180s. He had a better checkout percentage. He had a higher average. But Littler's timings are just impeccable. When he needs a big visit or when he needs that double, he just seems to get the job done. He's absolutely amazing. He was 2-1 to win the tournament at the start of last week. He didn't have an easy route either. He beat 4 former Grand Prix winners. He beat the world youth champion to win it. So it wasn't a tap-in for him. He had a tough run. I think, fellas, and maybe my comparison's a little bit over the top here, but there's certainly parallels to be drawn with the likes of Ronnie O'Sullivan and Tiger Woods for this lad. He's burst onto the scene and taken this game by the absolute scruff of the neck, and he is the man to beat. He's still a teenager, isn't he? He's the man to beat going into absolutely every single tournament. He is phenomenal.
You've gone early, have you not? Has he not gone early in that one? Tiger Woods, Ronnie O'Sullivan sound.
Well, he's having that sort of impact, isn't he? Because when they were so young, they changed the trajectory of how people watch the game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you've seen great players that arrived and stayed for a long period of time, like Phil Taylor, that dominated darts and took it to another level. You saw before that, you saw the Eric Bristows of the world that took it into a different space and place. And this kid's come along, and if you listen to Barry Hearn and The World According to, then you'll understand that they believe that the future of darts is being shepherded. An outcome in terms of the sport and its visibility.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, Matt, thank you very much indeed. That was a look at the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
Spot of boxing coming up. Disappointment in Sheffield on Saturday night with Dave Allen. He just could not rise to the occasion against the giant that he was facing. We'll look at that next. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown, live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range, helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines, it's just coming up to 2 minutes past 12. I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. Jack Wilshere's the new Luton manager, his first senior role.
I think it's a great opportunity for Jack. And given the time that I spent with him, and I've spoken to him subsequent, I think he's focused on being successful as a manager for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I think he'll have all the disciplines and none of the big-time player stuff.
Simon Jordan says there's a lot more to the thinker Jack Wilshere than meets the eye. Chris Powell will be Wilshere's number 2. More on this at talksport.com. Ollie Watkins is out of England's World Cup qualifier in Latvia, live on talkSPORT tomorrow. Watkins hasn't recovered from a knock in the win over Wales. Harry Kane should be fit though. Now, Paul Gascoigne's told White and Jordan the happiest time of his career came at Rangers, but he struggles to look back at his best performances.
I find it hard to watch football. Some of the clips when I think, God, I wish I had that back. I love that 90 minutes because that was meant freedom.
Gazza's told talkSPORT he's enjoying life down on the south coast despite struggling with his demons. Ashes now, and Pat Cummins admits his back problem is likely to keep him out of that first Ashes test. Andrew Flintoff's told talkSPORT he regrets taking the England captaincy back in 2006 but felt he was expected to. You can hear that full interview with Andrew Flintoff on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. And Joe Burgess has been included in England's Rugby League Ashes squad. Head coach Sean Wayne's named 5 treble-winning St Helens players in his 24-man group.
talkSPORT News.
Donald Trump's been given a long-standing ovation by the Israeli parliament after all remaining hostages were freed by Hamas, and 2 men have been charged with the murder of Ian Watkins. More from the news team at 5:30.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Today it's raining tyres in our centres, including top-notch brands like Pirelli. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Cloudy and dry for most of us, increasingly sunny across Scotland, a few drizzly showers possible on some coasts and breezy down south.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown, and we are live on talkSPORT, live on your TV as well. So whatever you want to watch a show, you can do just that. Samsung, Apple TV, Chromecast, Prime Video. Whatever you want to watch it, we are here for you. We're going to talk boxing in a second. Simon, when you think of it, Paul Gascoigne has come and gone. Yeah. The reaction is quite seismic. Whenever Paul shows up, people tune in huge numbers. And of course, he was here to promote his book, 8, The Real Gaza Revealed for the first time. What's your takeaway after being, an hour and a quarter in Gaza's company?
Mixed emotions, because I'd like to see Paul, I'd love to hear Paul talking about what's happening in football now and what he thinks of players now. And what he thinks of the group of players. We got very little of that because ultimately he doesn't enjoy football so much these days, and that's understandable. But also, when you've got someone that's played at his level and you can get incisive thought processes about what the game looks like, I'd like to hear some of that. I mean, obviously, I grew up with Paul Gascoigne, watching Paul Gascoigne play. I lived next door to John Hall, who loved him dearly, and so did John's son, Dougie Hall. And I had players in my dressing room. That Curtis Fleming that played with him and tell you tales of him. There's a part of me that has an inherent sadness about the direction of travel that Paul took, but by the same token, it's not for me to judge Paul Gascoigne's life. He was a mercurial talent. He was a fabulous talent. And like I said when he was in the studio, the problem with genius, however it manifests itself, it has another side to it. And if you look at the geniuses in the world, and there's few of them, but real mercurial geniuses, Georgie Best, Alex Higgins, they all came with a sting in the tail for themselves. And so, it's important to try to isolate the two things, isn't it? The football player and the personality. Yeah. And not to look at it through too judgmental a prism. He seems together. And that's, I think, all you can ask for.
I think Sam he seems
He's
together.
100% right. What I want is peace for him, though. Do you know, we were talking about routine and how he finds that when you're an ex-player. But when you've been a genius, I do feel that when you're doing a book, and we did this process myself, so, it does entrench you a little bit in the past, but it's about the present and the future. And that's what he needs to really live in. And he was a person who lived in the moment when he found his greatest success. And you have to do that again to live life properly going forward. And I think that's what it is. Like, I can watch now Arsenal and dearly want Arsenal to win. For years you were like, okay, I'm not part of it anymore. Do you really want them to win? Now I certainly do. And it's the same with England. And for Gaza to watch, and he said, didn't he, Star Trek wasn't on, so he watched football the other night. But he should really watch it with a passion, and so he should. To live his life again, you can never be the same. You make the best of it when you finish playing.
Yeah. Even it appears he spends a lot of time on his own. You would hope that he can do so and carry on.
Well, there's more to
level-headed, clear-headed, and put anything.
People keep taking him back. Every time people talk to him, they take him back.
There's more to Paul Gascoigne than the past. That's the big thing for me. There's more to Paul Gascoigne than what once was, and there's different facets, and everyone has different phases in their lives. And of course, people are stuck in the memory of Paul Gascoigne and the crying on the field, and ultimately the Walker's Crisps adverts, and all the hysteria and funny things that go with Paul. And he plays into that gallery. But there's another part of Paul Gascoigne which is more thoughtful, and you see that a little bit off camera than you do on camera. On camera, I think Paul feels that he has to recant the stories of the anarchy and the funniness of all the things that made him such a lovable figure.
Play to character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another character took to the boxing ring on Saturday night. He is Dave Allen, but his night ended in defeat to the giant Russian Arslanbek Makhmudov. Simon, you no doubt watched this. I did. I was very hopeful that Big Dave might find something in his armoury to topple this fellow, but he just couldn't do it. He lost a unanimous points decision to Makhmudov in the Sheffield arena. Massive backing from the Sheffield people, but it wasn't to be, and this was Dave on what might have been.
Just weren't good enough, but the crowd in here tonight, I've never, ever, ever seen anything like it. I nearly cried when I had to really choke it all back a little bit on the ramp there. I'm not finished. No.
How did you assess the power of Arslanbek Makhmudov tonight?
I've never been hit like that in my life. He hurt me really, really bad 5 or 6 times. Jay wanted to pull me out, I think 2 rounds to go. And with the Price and the Clark fight, I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. I'm a tough man. I've never been down in 34 fights. I've boxed the best. Everyone who come out here tonight, I had to see the final bell. I had to see the final bell. If nothing else, I was going to get put out on my back or reach the final bell. And I wish I could. I thought I had been going at the end of one of the rounds. I just weren't good enough, and that hurts a little bit. But I'll be back over the British title. Maybe try and do Bridgerweight. I don't know, but I'm not finished yet. The nights like that, how could I leave it alone? It was incredible, and thank you everyone here, everyone at home. I'm so grateful. I'm not the best, but you guys make me feel like I'm the best.
Typical Dave. The man who commentated on the proceedings, top boxing commentator Adam Smith joins us live this lunchtime. Adam, looking back in it, was there at any time do you think, yeah, he's going to do it? He's going to do it, because I must be honest with you, the longer it went on, I didn't think it was going to happen.
Hi guys. Look, Dave's just amazing and a great character, and the reception he got, I think, was one of the best I remember in recent months. It was fantastic. The Sheffield homecoming that he asked for. He wanted a big challenge against Makhmudov. I just thought Makhmudov got into a rhythm. I think he went back to his sort of basic amateur style, which was good jabs, solid right hands, and I think there was the potential, the tactics were that suck up the first few and then maybe come on strong, but he didn't let the hands go for me. The body shots were missing. There was a moment at the end of the 9th when the bell went where he just had that chance. But yeah, I think that probably he's right. He took too much in the first half of the fight. So he never had that energy. And look, he was searingly honest. He wasn't good enough, and that's the facts. He tried. He dared to be great in front of a big crowd, and he fell short. And what we love about Dave Allen is that he'll tell the truth. And this sport is about levels. It's about levels and timing. And Dave wasn't there. And I had a good chat with him afterwards. Whether he'll carry on or not, I think in the emotion, of course, he wants to for the fans, but. He's had 34 fights. Jamie Moore and Nigel Travers are very good people around him, and they'll decide what to do next. Maybe a British title shot, but maybe he comes our side of the ropes because he gives so much value to the sport of boxing, just being around, the commentary or the young fighters. He's great, and we love him because he's Dave Allen.
Exactly. What do you? I mean, we can't decide for him, Simon. What do you hope is next for him?
Whatever he wants to do. I mean, I listened to Carl Frampton. I couldn't quite work out whether Carl was asking him to retire or fight Deontay Wilder. He seemed to lurch from one to the other. I mean, I felt that that Dave had an opportunity in this fight because the Makhmudov that fought in this fight was far better than the Makhmudov that lost to Guido Vianello. who is a very average fighter. And so the expectation was that if they could get into this fight, maybe they could take some of his heart and some of his desire, because it would have been perhaps waning after the defeat to Ajit Cabiot, who's a world-level operator, but Vianello was not. I mean, I thought Dave had him going in the 9th. I thought there was a chance. He had him really going in the 9th. But, like he said, you know, he's fought against many fighters. It was interesting that he talks about this guy hitting the hardest, because he's been in with people like Dillian White. He's been in with other top fighters that hit hard as well. So, you know, all things being equal, I think he's got to do what he wants to do. And there'll be opportunities. Maybe there'll be an opportunity to fight the winner of Fraser Clark versus Jamie TKV, hopefully that's not a bore fest. And then we'll see, because one thing Dave said, and Adam knows he said this, and a big thing for him, was that he wanted to win the British title because it would mean a lot to him and his father. And that may well be an opportunity for Dave. But the interesting thing was that Jamie was going to take him out of the fight. That was an interesting position that Dave, you know, revealed to people. I was disappointed. I thought that Dave should have started quicker, but Makhmudov came out and took the centre of the ring and just kept ramrodding him. And he looked strong for the first 3 or 4 rounds, Makhmudov, didn't he, Adam?
Yeah, he did. Absolutely right. I think, look, Makhmudov, he was a good amateur. I think the 2 stoppage defeats maybe gave Team Allen more confidence, but I think actually going in the ring with somebody who was just a little bit better, a little bit stronger, and I think we probably underestimated Makhmudov. Caballel is a tip-top fighter, you know, one of the elite, and he showed how to beat Makhmudov, but Dave Allen's not at that level. And you're right, he might want to fight for that British title. And we'd love to see him win a Lonsdale belt, I mean, after everything he's given us. But I think that Makhmudov didn't allow him to start fast. And I think the tactics always were to come on strong in the second half of the fight. But I think when he tried to press the pedal, it wasn't there. And I think there were opportunities on the ropes where he could have let those big hooks go to the body, and he didn't. And yeah, that's fine. It's as he summed it up afterwards, it was a big opportunity and a chance, but he wasn't good enough.
Adam, you've had, to say the least of it, a full-on few days. The funeral of Ricky Hatton on Friday, and you gave the eulogy, which was immense. A great reaction to that, and a huge reaction to that, Adam. So well done. There must have been a lot of pressure on you going into that because you knew the man so well. How do you reflect on the day itself?
Yeah, it's been a really tough few weeks, as Andy and Darren know. When I'm in every Tuesday and I talk about Ricky, you know, we grew up in boxing together and we were very close. It was tough. It was hard. It was an honor to be asked by his family to do it. I think it was the hardest thing I've ever done in the sport, to sort of say goodbye to a friend in a really public arena where you just want to sort of say the right things but speak from the heart. I was really nervous, and I don't normally get nervous before speaking, but this was different. I just wanted to do him proud, and I wanted to speak for every fan, every person that followed Ricky, that felt they knew him as a friend, and also just sort of highlight what a great fighter he was too, because I think people look back at the Mayweather and Pacquiao defeats, which he took so hard, and I just wanted to remind everyone what a boxer he was, as well as what a man he was outside of the ring. So thank you for that, kind words, and I've had kind words from a lot of people. But for me, the memory of the day was the fans turning out on the streets, the fans outside of the cathedral. So many even came to the wake to try and get in. It was a bonding, really sad day, but also a beautiful send-off. It was done incredibly well. Manchester came to a standstill. It was something that none of us will forget who were there, but we won't forget him. And I think it's his memory. And I spent a lot of time with the family at the wake, and you know, I just want to be there for Jack and for Campbell, and just in some small way. And I just want to make sure that Ricky's legacy goes on, and also the Ricky Hatton Foundation for mental health, which is such a massive area, and something I'm passionate about, that life after sport, when the gloves are hung up, and the purpose and the structure and all of that area. And the sad thing was, I thought Ricky was in a really good place this year, but so yeah, I really want to help out the Ricky Hatton Foundation, and yeah, it was a very difficult thing to do, and I'm just sad. I'm just still very sad about it.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Adam Smith with us this lunchtime. It is Monday lunchtime. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan and Martin Keown, and we are live on talkSPORT. Of course, a lot has happened since we were last in the company of one Martin Keown, and things going very much in the right direction if you're an Arsenal fan, and Martin is exactly that. Before I go any further, did I hear you say to Simon you were in Denmark on Arsenal duty at the weekend?
I was with the Arsenal Danish Supporters Club, Thomas Bellegaard. A great guy. He fronts up the supporters club, Jim. There's about 5,000 of them over there. So it was a few hundred that we met. And great day. They really are. These are the true supporters. They travel back and forth across to watch Arsenal, and they have done for many years. I think 25 years. Thomas has been involved. So really good people. Great opportunity for me to actually go and say thank you.
Address the great and the good of
all things Arsenal.
Denmark's Arsenal
it's kind of a good time, isn't it, at the moment? Arsenal top of the league. Obviously, Liverpool were the champions, and rightly so last year. So been a good start for Arsenal when you consider all those away games, Jim. We talked about them at the start of the season. Now, a couple of points ahead of Liverpool. I expect Liverpool to respond, and we're looking forward to that at the weekend. Still a few international games before that. But Arsenal have really turned things around, Jim, and looking really very strong right now.
This time last week, the man who was sitting in that seat you're in was one Emmanuel Petit, of course, an Arsenal an Arsenal player of the past, and of course a World Cup winner with France. And Martin, he spoke about Arsenal in these terms.
I hope they're going to win the title, and I think they will win the title because of the new signing, because of the options that Arteta have, on the bench, and the rotation he can make, the turnover he can make, every games. That's for me the biggest reason why Arsenal lost the last 2 or 3 seasons the title. The competition with Liverpool or Manchester City. So it changed a lot. I don't see Arsenal or Arteta not winning the title this season. To be honest with you.
Wow. So he nailed his colours to the mast for a variety of reasons. But he said, now's the time, Martin. Now is the time. Do you agree?
Well, I was asked that question at the start of the season in my role with the BBC, and I said, I think Arsenal can be champions this year. And I haven't backed them in the last 3 or 4 years. I thought they were in the race. This year, though, when I saw the acquisitions in the summer, there's no doubt that they've gone up a gear. And they're doing it on the pitch, Jim. Mosquera, central defender, coming in. You're not really seeing any drop-in level with the 2 Arsenal central defenders. Saliba are signing a new contract. Supermendy in midfield. These guys are playing for Spain now, and then they're putting on boots for Arsenal every week. So it's been a good story at the start of the season, but it's the beginning, Jim. It's about being there in March, April, and winning something significant. And that's what it is for Arsenal. Everyone knows that. The pressure is on them to do that, but they're enjoying it, and they've got to love it. That's how you do it. As you take it on board, you love it every day. You eat, breathe, sleep football. They're away with their international teams. You don't want any more injuries. Havertz injured, Jesus injured, Ødegaard injured. But it doesn't matter too much now because they bought Jim very well. So people have been coming in, filling in, and it's a strong look for Arsenal.
Simon, what do you make of Sol Campbell's comments? That suggestion, really, that maybe Slot was quite fortunate. Some people are lucky, he says. Arne Slot inherited a fantastic side and won the league. He hasn't changed much. He's lucky. A new manager, good bounce, players responded. Arteta had to get rid of some players, the deadwood. So he's saying, compared to what Arteta's had to do, Slot's been fortunate, according to Campbell.
Well, I think there's nothing controversial about that to some extent. If you've brought no players in and you've had no battles to fight and you've had to not convince the dressing room to follow you, then you've had some fortune. And that's a tribute back to Jurgen Klopp. And I sort of made the same observation last week. The battles that Arteta had to fight were slightly different. I mean, he did advocate for, Aubameyang to have a new contract, didn't he? And then had to deal with the ramifications of the attitude that was exhibited after he got his new contract. So you can't necessarily say that Arteta broke up the dressing room when he, in fact, created some of the reasons why the dressing room needed to be broken up. But I look at it and think that there is an element of what Sol Campbell said that is probably accurate. I do think that we're seeing Slot now having to reassemble a Liverpool side because for a very selection of reasons, one through tragedy, one through a player wanting to leave and go somewhere else, he's having to rebuild the Liverpool side. There's challenges coming on about some of the things like Mo Salah not getting involved in tracking back and helping out new defenders in the side. That is becoming a little bit more controversial. People were having the balls to say certain things about Mohamed Salah because he was a protected characteristic. You couldn't ever criticise him previously. So I think there's something in what Sol's saying, but I also think you make your own luck. And he could have also been not particularly effective, gone into a dressing room that was perfectly capable of being successful and turned it into an unsuccessful one. So you have to give Slot lots of praise, and you also have to recognise the landscape that very rarely do you come into a dressing room when there's very little wrong. You can make the argument that Liverpool tailed off under Klopp. They didn't do what people thought they were going to do, which was kick on. And that may well also be because Jurgen Klopp created a vacuum by saying he wanted to leave as early as he did and was going to leave, and it might have created a stabilising.
He wasn't sacked, was he? In a normal situation, I mean, it's a great situation to walk into because it was just a few pieces in the jigsaw puzzle, maybe nothing at all.
Yeah.
Just about giving them time. But this year, I mean, Wirtz has come in, Konate's not playing his football, Kirkez at the back, Frimpong. They look a little bit weak defensively, but I expect them to iron all this out, Jim.
Can you hope? Do you have a rough idea that your old friends Manchester United, Martin, might do Arsenal a favour and win at Anfield on Sunday?
No, I don't see that happening. Although they do raise their game, don't they, when they play in these big games? So there's been an awful lot on that one, but I don't see it ending well for Manchester United. Amorim, I know he's been given more time. It feels strange, actually, that the owner of the club feels it necessary to support him in this way. That is almost suspicious in that way, whether or not he's intimated that he doesn't want to be there. But I can't think of any other reason why the owner wouldn't be so strong to actually support him in the way that he is right now. So, no, he needs to get results and quickly, but I don't expect them to do it this coming weekend.
Are you seeing anything in Gyökeres that makes you think, this boy's going to be the difference?
I think he's getting stronger, he's getting fitter. He's a bit of a bull of a man, Jim. I think the goal against Olympiacos, which they end up scoring, the way he bustles through there. But they've got to keep looking for him. They are moving it through midfield a bit quicker now. So that's what they need to do. You know, he makes the runs, give him the ball.
Arsenal, I think, the night before at Fulham this weekend. So
been tricky, that game over the years, actually.
It's a welcome back to the Premier League, but it could work in Arsenal's favour this weekend.
Well, I mean, there's one or two there, isn't there, that used to play for Arsenal. Smith Rowe, Wobie, and that's been a difficult game for Arsenal in recent years. So they have to again show, it's another step, isn't it, that you're going to be top dogs. You've got to keep doing it every week.
Yeah. Premier League returns, and we're right there with it. It's 12:30. It's Monday lunchtime.
Jack Wilshere's got his first senior job in management as he joins Luton Town. The Hatters parted with Matt Bloomfield and sit 11th in League One with just one win from their last 5 league games. talkSPORT's Alan Pardew says Luton need to make the playoffs at least.
And maybe a young coach with progressive ideas and the enthusiasm to lift everybody will be much needed. I hope he gets some guidance. He needs some guidance.
Wilshere was interim boss at Norwich at the end of last season. Now, were Scotland fans right to boo off a winning team? Andy Robertson says yes.
I've got no problems at all, and I think it also was a part of nerves from the fans as well, and rightly so. You know, the last 5 minutes it's 2-1, they throw their big centre backs up, which we should have never have been in that position. So no, completely understand it.
Scotland were unconvincing in their 2-1 win over Belarus, but still have World Cup qualification in their own hands. Craig Bellamy believes a special moment is coming for Wales ahead of their crunch qualifier at home to Belgium tonight. Meanwhile, Julian Nagelsmann said sorry for calling Michael O'Neill's long ball approach not particularly easy on the eyes. Northern Ireland host Germany tonight. The winner goes top of the group. And Australia captain Pat Cummins admits he probably won't be fit for that first Ashes test. He's struggling with a back problem.
We get into like bowling prep, I think, next week, so probably a couple of weeks away before actually putting on the spikes and bowling out on turf. But yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks. Kind of each session feels better and better.
Now, the former England captain Andrew Flintoff joins his former teammate and best mate Steve Harmison for a special interview on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, chatting about his new book Coming Home, which is out now. Here they reflect on that iconic Ashes series in 2005 and that famous photograph of Freddie comforting Australia's Brett Lee following England's narrow win at Edgbaston.
When you got Kasparovich out, you know, I spoke about this before, is that one of the things about it is you got taught as kids, didn't you? You know, 2 things: respect the umpire. If you nick it, walk, which I never did. And the other, respect the opposition. But you got taught that as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I got there.
Because you were the first one to shake his hand.
But I wasn't focused.
You don't know where the cameras are now.
Exactly.
Look at you now, look at all these cameras. And then just went over, and it was nothing profound. It was, I quite like Brett Lee.
Yeah.
You know, we tried to knock him out. He runs in every day. We tried to hit him. We tried to get him out. And he just kept coming back, and it was just like, man, oh, he deserves that type of thing. We'll see you next week.
Well, you can watch the full interview. Make sure you head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe, or you can listen to it via the following on podcast feed. Andrew Flintoff in conversation with Big Harmy. Yesterday, in this very studio, the Crystal Palace chairman, Steve Parish, was a guest on Sunday edition alongside Henry Winter and Sean Custis. And Parish spoke about the future of his man, Oliver Glasner.
I think Oliver's a brilliant guy. I think he's a sensational manager. And his opinion is extremely important to the football club. And what he thinks is something that we take very seriously. Certainly I take very seriously. And, you know, will we look back on things and adapt what we do? Absolutely, in future. Yeah, we've had some early conversations. I mean, you know, look, we would love to keep Oliver. You know, we're building something. I think for Oliver, you know, it's about the conditions being right. You know, it's about everything being in a way that he enjoys his work, you know, and he finds the conditions favourable to achieve. Oliver wants to win things. You know, he makes no secret of that. That's what he's in football for. You know, he's in football for those days where we give all that pleasure to the fans, and we do as well. So, you know, if we can align those interests, then hopefully we can make something happen.
Simon, of course, you still have a huge affection for Crystal Palace as a football club. But do you doubt that with his contract being up at the end of the season, Glasner will go into another season at Palace?
Well, it depends what's available for him. I mean, there's no doubt that he's a top manager, not just because of his performances of Eintracht Frankfurt, and I think it was a great get for Parish to have got, but because his performances at Palace, that he's delivered things to Crystal Palace that have never been delivered before, and an FA Cup final win being tantamount to being at the top of that particular queue. I'd be surprised if he's there at the end of the year, and not because I'm looking to pick a fight or settle any particular battles with people that I may or may not like, but because I think that there comes a point where if you don't support the manager. And I don't think it's particularly arguable that he's not been supported in the way that a manager that's brought the kind of success to a team that's never had it this way before would expect. I think it's reasonable to say that in his first season, he didn't get the kind of backing that he might have anticipated, but he took it, and so he should, because he was given an opportunity halfway through the season. He hadn't been there for very long. He had a good run at the back end of the season, and so he took it. But I think this summer, with the sale of Eberechi Eze, and ultimately the lack of transfer funds that have been really made available to him, they haven't even spent what they brought in. I would be surprised if he's happy with that. And so with that in mind, I'm not wishing to talk him out of the door. If a big job in England were to come, because I understand he likes England, I understand he likes London very much. So it's in Palace's favour, but he's into his last year, and they're punching way above their weight at this moment in time. They're playing brilliantly. I mean, the loss against Everton was a surprise given the fact they'd gone 18 games unbeaten, the kind of people that they'd taken and beaten previously.
Record for them, isn't it?
Illustrated the kind of form that they're in. But Palace, when they've got their first 11 out on the field, are very, very good, very competitive, very difficult to play against. As we go deeper into the season, the challenges will become more prevalent, and then you might see the dissatisfaction come to the fore about the resources that he's got. Now, we'll see. If Palace go into January and give him a whole barrel load of money, which is no indication that they will, or have done previously, if someone shows you what they are, tend to believe them, and there's been no indication of huge spend for Palace, and that is a lack of ambition, with all due respect. They're not caught by PSR. If you look at their numbers, they're not caught by PSR. They're not caught by lack of capital, because they've got serious wealthy, not Parish, serious wealthy people in there like David Blitzer and Josh Harris that have got the money to make it available if they want to. They stay in their lane. That may well be because they think they're going to build a new stadium or a new stand, certainly. But we've all tried to do that. I tried to do that, and we'll see if they've done it in 10 years' time. I potentially think they won't.
Yeah.
But I think that I'd be surprised. I hope I'm wrong.
I think Steve Parish struck me there as being like, while this guy's in the building, we'll learn from him, we'll draw from him. But there's actually a kudos in bringing him here, because look how successful he's been. They're currently in their most successful period in their club's history, to have won the FA Cup and the Community Shield. They're sixth in the table, 18 games. To think what they're running with. I mean, they were second in the table before they lost this last game. So it's a really good period. I think the manager showed his teeth in the summer with Gahey. So, of course, he was there ready to almost sign for Liverpool. And it was like, no, it doesn't happen on my watch. If you take him out, I'll let one go. I don't mind Eze going to Arsenal, but you don't take another one. And I think he wanted that. And they've dealt with all of that, Jim, through a difficult pre-season, start of the season, players coming and going. And they've bought well. So it's a good story. And I think what they'll do is try to look again. They'll wish him well. Glasner, lots of the big clubs will come looking now, Jim, and so they should really. It's a shame for Palace that they can't hold on to, but look, he's made his mark at that football club since he's been there.
You don't think they'll keep hold of him?
If he carries on being as successful as he is, I see that's a little bit unlikely.
Harder.
But the challenge is, and Martin's probably right, because someone will come along and see the vision once the vision has arrived. Yeah, it's very easy to see when someone else has put all the elbow grease into getting something to a certain level. Oh, I'll have him then, right? But the fact is, you've got to give him, if you want to keep managers like that, Thomas Frank was kept at Brentford for a long period of time, a lot longer than people might have anticipated, because he brought unprecedented levels of success to Brentford. But you have to give the manager something to hold on to. If you don't give him, within reason, not everything he bloody wants, but give him more reasons to be supportive of your projects, i.e. back him with transfer funds, then you give him less inclination to want to be having his head turned.
Yeah.
You can't not be Glasner and say, well, actually, if you give me more dough, I could actually punch this team higher.
Do you know, and it's a part of you're a Palace fan, where's the next step for Palace? Because they can't,
well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, if you're a Palace fan, you're listening to you say this, and nothing wrong with what you said, by the way, and saying, well, what does that mean for us then? We're learning from someone, so we've got to start all over again then.
Yeah.
Because when Glasner goes out the door, you're then a hostage to fortune about who you get in the door next and what they're going to do next, because I don't think they're going to get a better manager than Glasner. So you just stay still.
Part of the upside was they won the FA Cup, and that was magnificent. Part of the downside was they get thrown out the Europa League and they're having to play their football in the Europa Conference League. And we know why that was. And Parish spoke about that briefly.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, wasn't it? And I mean, the whole thing is a pretty sorry episode, really. You know, I look back on it and I think in the end, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, look, we just got to look positively. We're in the Conference League. You know, we're excited to be in the Conference League. We wish we'd been in the Europa League, but we've put it behind us really now. I think, look, UEFA have got to look at the rules that they've implemented and the way they communicate them. I don't think that they're sensible rules. There is a huge irony in that, you know, I don't really believe in multi-club. I don't really want to be a part of it, and we never did anything, you know, with that club. So it seems an extraordinary decision, and of course everybody feels like if it wasn't, we were just the right sort of size club you can make an example of, weren't we? You know, we were just the right, you know, enough that maybe it puts people off not conforming in the future. But the general feeling is if we were a bigger club, they would have found a way.
Do you believe that, Simon? That at the end of the day,
I believe he believes that.
UEFA made an example of Palace because they're the size of club that they felt they could make an example of.
Well, Nottingham Forest are no bigger size of club. They've been out of the Premier League for 23 years. They might have some history back in European competition, but are long since departed. The reasons why Palace find themselves in this position, with all due respect to what people may think is my agenda, is because he didn't do his job. It's as simple as that. He's done a brilliant job for Crystal Palace since he took over from me. They have had unprecedented levels of success, and no one should take that away from him. But in this instance, you do not get to skate away from this one. You've got to skate away from a lot of things, and some of the things some of the liberties you took with me, you've got to skate away from. But in the reality of what you've achieved at that football club, brilliant. In this instance, that should have been challenged by the two guys. That should have been pushed back on, because it's got nothing to do with the size of Crystal Palace. If Nottingham Forest, irrespective of Olympiacos, because Palace in their own accounts recognised the fact that they had to comply with UEFA rules. They knew what they had to do. They took Texter's money. It's easy to blame Texter. They took Texter's money and they put it in their pockets. Right? And then they tried to blame him for being the shareholder because he was a multi-club owner. Parish is across most things. He's made more money out of Palace than anything he's ever made in his life. Fair play to him. And so he should have been across it. So he can't just sit there and say it's because we're a small club. It's a bad ruling. You knew the rule, you didn't comply with it. Now go win the Europa Conference League, make your point, and play in the Europa League next year.
But how do they become bigger then? So why do they not? To PSR, so we're going to, if I'm Steve Parish, why doesn't he invest some of his own money to make the stadium bigger? So they can then make the next step? Because we're talking about the turnover for matchday revenue.
Because he hasn't got any. I mean, his material wealth is not
short of
significant.
everyone else.
The other boys that he's in bed with, the Bankroller Football Club.
Glasner and Harris.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago when he took it off me, he didn't have the money to do it himself. He had to get everyone together. He had to get 4 other people together. So he hasn't got the kind of wealth himself. He's got reasonable wealth, but he hasn't got the kind of wealth that changed.
That was smart what he did.
Very smart. Well done him for having other people's money.
Ironically, Palace's misfortune in this Europa League, Europa Conference League cock-up could lead to something positive for everybody else, because UEFA now could change their rules to give clubs more time to resolve any multi-club ownership rules next season. It's too late for Palace. We know that. But going forward, any club in contention for European qualification the following season would be required to highlight any potential multi-club issues to UEFA by the 1st of March. But would then be given additional time at the end of the season to resolve any further problems if multiple clubs in the same ownership group have qualified for the same competition.
And that may well be the outcome, but it doesn't alter the landscape.
The deadline's not as harsh.
Well, sure, but they moved the deadline from previous years backwards and forwards. They've done it, and Palace didn't comply. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not because you didn't know the rule, you just didn't adjust to it, and you didn't do what your own account said you should do. Now, it might have been, if John Textor was in the studio, he might have been an intransigent bugger. He might have turned around and said, no, I'm not putting my shares in a blind shareholding, and so you can't do it. And it might have been all Textor. That's not the impression I got from him. That's not what he says. And so with that in mind, if Textor says he would have put his shares in blind trust, why wasn't it done? So with the situation as it is, it changes now. But my big thing for Palace is I actually think this is a better outcome for them, because I think they might well have got knocked out in the Europa League ladder position.
We'll never know, but they're not playing in the right competition.
But if they
didn't win the FA Cup to play in the Conference League.
I know, but they are where they are now. So the fact of the matter is they're in Europe. They're playing in the European Conference League. If they go and win this, A, it's as economically rewarding as the Europa League, and B, they get 2 seasons. Now, if they go to the Europa League and get knocked out in the group stage, that'll be their voyage into Europe.
It's a shame, though, isn't it? If it is that Spurs can win the Europa League and end up in the Champions League, Palace looks a whole lot better team right now than Spurs did last season.
Of course, and they can win it.
But the fact is, the rules needed changing, didn't they?
No,
because UEFA are now changing them.
No, the rules...
Well, they certainly needed relaxing.
The rules needed complying with.
Yeah.
So if you can't comply, if you know the rules then you comply with them. If you didn't comply
Why
with
would
them,
they be changing them?
Maybe because the pressure's been put on them to maybe look at it again and review it again. But things change and they evolve, and sometimes the rules that you change to aren't always better. They may well have changed it because they felt that the ramifications of Crystal Palace's 4-act play about how small clubs are treated needed some adjustment for some window dressing, a little bit of window dressing. Maybe the rule, because what Parish would say is take the rule away. That's his argument, not the timing of the rule. His argument wasn't about the timing of the rule. His rule about the rule, full stop. This is a rule that's designed to benefit nobody and resolve anything. But that's so the fact they've relaxed the timing of it. So are you telling me that if they relaxed the timing of it, Palace would have done anything different?
Exactly.
Well, that question needs to be, what would you have done different? What could you have done in 7 months that you couldn't do in 3?
Well, it's too late now, isn't it? We'll never know. Life goes on for Crystal Palace under Oliver Glasner. The question is for how long? It's been quite a show, and thanks to everybody still reacting out there to the chat we had with Paul Gascoigne. Gaza, I know you're out and about in a cab now. No doubt the first thing you told me this morning was any cab that Gaza gets into, whether it's here in London or in Poole and Dorset or whatever. talkSPORT is always on. Well, you were on this morning, Gaza, and what a reaction you have had. So thanks for joining us. So the one-time star of England, we look to England now, and England obviously will make it to the finals in the USA next summer. Of that, there is no doubt. They play Latvia tomorrow night at the Daugavas Stadium. It was Wales the other night in an international at Wembley. And interestingly, Thomas Tuchel had this to say about the level of support inside Wembley on the night.
The stadium was silent. We never got any energy back from the fans, and I think the players delivered a lot to get more from the stands. So it was difficult to keep everything going in the second half, but we did excellent. We deserved to win. What more can you give than 20 minutes, 3 goals, and the thing we were going, and the way we attacked Wales and then didn't let them escape even of their own half, and had ball win after ball win after ball win. And yeah, so if you're then here for half an hour just Wales fans, it's a bit sad, because I think the team deserved big support today.
Wow, Martin, you were there, right? What do you make of that?
Yeah, it was a bit surreal, because England were 3 up after 21 minutes, and it wasn't quite the raucous noise that you would expect from a kind of rampant England audience. You know, maybe people go in there for the first time, or not quite behind the team in the way that you would expect. And then the Welsh fans, was interesting. The Welsh fans were so passionate, so loyal to their team, even though the performance of their national side was really below par. I know they had a really big game, and they have to against Belgium tonight coming up, so I understood it. It's such a big game, England-Wales. It's a shame that there's a qualification game at the end of it for Wales, and it really showed in their performance. But I think sometimes this can happen at Wembley. You know, when you don't get that regular crowd, you get people obviously supporting their own teams, and it's not quite the same, but it's a message to the fans that when you turn up, you've got to get behind it. You have to play your part as well. So I don't see any harm in it. Thomas Tuchel just poking them at the bear a little bit, trying to get a response from the fans. But they played decent money. They can respond in whatever way they want, I'm afraid.
True. I mean, I'm with Martin to a degree. I like what Tuchel did there, though, Simon. Would Gareth have done it? We won't know. But would he have had a dig at the supporters when you need them? Where were they?
I don't think so. Maybe not. He might have been a bit more subtle about the observation rather than as blunt as Thomas Tuchel is. Thomas Tuchel is now fully ensconced in the England manager's role. He's come out of his little honeymoon period and a few games where people were critical of him. He's got a few good wins behind him now. And now we're seeing the real Thomas Tuchel. And Thomas Tuchel demands of his players, he demands of everybody around him. He's a demanding individual. And now he demands of his fans. That's fine, Thomas. Make sure you win games. Make sure you play the way that you want, that the country wants you to play, because if you push that little button with fans, you're going to have them on your back pretty quick. Some fans will like it and think that's a winner's mentality. Some fans will think it's a bloody sauce. I'll cheer how I want. I'll pay for what I want to pay for. I think that you should go and support teams. I think we should have a noise inside a stadium, because I'm pretty damn sure if England were losing 3-0 at half-time to the Welsh, there would have been a reaction from the fans. It would have been boos and jeers and whistles.
It's an interesting stance, though, where he doesn't involve Bellingham, and didn't mention Foden even. And obviously Cole Palmer not available. This group, it's one of those that you could see them working really hard for one another, because they want to hang on to these places. No one going through the motions.
As it should be.
3-0 up early on. People playing well, and the job was done, and it was kind of over at that point, and it was difficult for the players, I think, to sort of commit. Second half wasn't as good, nearly as good, but they've won the match. There's another game to play versus Latvia. So they've done their job. But I like what he's doing. These are precious places when you play for your national team. We're not going to give them away lightly, and these guys have done pretty
Why didn't they
well.
kick on? I mean, domestically, you would expect a side that's 3-0 up to go on, and if it was Man City, they wouldn't leave it at 3. They would go and rinse you. And so Tuchel has to also look at himself and go, well, yeah, all right, the fans didn't give us the atmosphere or the energy, but we could have gone on and won this 5 and 6. What was his explanation for that?
Well, that's when we get into this argument about player welfare and how many games are you asking me to go to the well, to dig deep, and we're 3-0 up at half time.
7 games into the season?
Yes,
you can't have it now. You can have the argument later on.
But we know,
Martin, you haven't left us enough time to come back at you on that.
You know what's ahead, and it's like job done. Like, I saw Wales making 5 or 6 substitutions long before England were doing.
Oh, hang on,
and it's
Martin.
like, no, we got to manage.
3-0 up, and Tuchel's wanting more, and the players are giving back.
Look,
you know how
yeah, but
difficult
the
it is
job-
out here.
The job is done. I'm not going to pull a hamstring. We're 3-0 up. I have to sort of pull back a little bit, and that's what happened. And a human reaction. The job was done. England were far too good for Wales.
Maybe that's why we stopped at 2 against Belarus and let them have a 1.
Could have been that.
No,
Absolutely.
Could have been that.
No, you weren't in that luxurious position.
Martin, why
were
did you
hanging
come
on,
in
mate.
with player welfare when we're running out of time? There's no time for me to mount an attack back at you. Martin Keown, great having you back.
Thank you, Jim. Enjoyed it.
Arsenal Invincible. As for you, I shall see you tomorrow at 10, Simon. In the meantime, at 1 o'clock this lunchtime, thank you to everybody for all your comments about Gaza. We love him and we wish him well. It is 1 o'clock this Monday lunchtime.